Oh, hey, what's up? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I have no shirts. I need to put it on.
Oh no, whatever we're gonna do. Yeah, I was trying to get my fancy headset to work, but it's been so long since I've used it. And Bluetooth always gets tangled up so fucking easily. So, I don't know. I was trying to get my new computer working, but then I realized there's just so much crap on my old computer that I haven't carried over because, haven't made a video or anything on the new computer, right? So, anyway,
Yeah,
how have
my
you been?
oh god, it's been a roller coaster. Like it happened this year.
Hey, me too. That's great.
Like it's been like up and down, and over again. Like I've been to like doctor times like 10 times. I've been moving to different countries, and the last year was also in different countries. So in the last 2 years, I've been like
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, you're on the
like eight
run.
countries, right? Uh, and several countries I've been like several times within these 2 years. So like,
Yeah,
and
and
then
you
I've
you're
been
into, like terrorism. You're running from the government. That's kind of the look with the scruff you got going. I assume
yeah,
you
but
did
no, that's
something
because it's November.
serious.
Why are you so perfect when it's November?
Are you here to confess your crimes?
No, no, it's because it's the November month. That's why I don't shave my
Oh,
face.
that's right, Movember. Ah, yeah. Maybe I should maybe incorporate that into next year's International Men's Day. Oh, it should be a facial hair contest. So you come
Yeah,
there right on the 19th or whenever, right when you're halfway through Movember, and maybe part of the joke is you could like shave like funny parts of it or something on like a day, or I don't know, or maybe I could do that like for donations. You can like shave my facial hair silly, and then I have to not shave it for the rest of November because it's because of the holiday.
yes, exactly.
Someone's
That's the
obviously
purpose.
going to give someone a Hitler stash, but I think it's
Those,
funny. Yeah,
yeah, remember that time
that's
I
the first
basically
thing I think of for maximum impact for minimal effort. But well, yeah.
remember
So
that. No, I used
yeah,
to
but go ahead.
remember that time where I shaved all my face and without the mustache and showed you to it. I was going to think about because it's the mustache month, I only have a mustache, nothing else. But last time I showed you myself a picture wearing a mustache, you basically said that makes you change your opinion about the government because you need the government to make it illegal because it looked so bad.
Oh, was I that mean? I don't think I was
Yeah,
that
no, but it looked kind of
No,
bad. I
I
only did it for like a few minutes because I wanted to
maybe
see
that
what it
sounds
was
like a
like.
mean thing I might say, and not
No,
really.
I actually look at it. You're like, I've changed my mind on my need for government because of this terrible facial hair. I need to get it needs to like get rid of it.
I mean,
So
what's the
that's why
point
we
of
need to
having
have
any
a
gay
government for
friends if
that
no
reason
one,
alone.
you know, you gotta have gay friends for that purpose to call out the bystanders or to not be a bystander in regards to.
That is so true because straight men, they a lot of the time they actually can't. How to say? They actually can't. They don't really know how to. Basically, if you know what you know what I mean when I say androsexual and gynosexual, right?
Right.
Right. So androsexual people, we care too much about what we look like. Gynosexual people care too little about what they look like.
Oh, I don't know.
No, but you
I feel like I don't
stereotypically.
care that much.
But you know what the
Maybe
stereotype
that's
is
not a
coming
bad
from,
idea.
right?
Yeah, but I really should write some of these ideas down. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so I
never
mean,
write down because
basically,
of perfect memory.
I really didn't do much of like integrating like this channel or anything with what I've been working on as far as International Men's Day. But they're pretty small events that I've been doing with TCMC, Twin Cities Men's Center. And since they say, yeah, like if no one's using that space, like why not like put an event together for this thing? We haven't heard of International Men's Day. That's really cool, right? So yeah, this is the third year that we've done an event at the center. And it's always a small event. We get maybe a dozen people. Although this year, I'd say it was probably close to about 30 people if you count, people coming and going. But I think most people who are there were just there for the whole thing because, yeah, we had lots of music and everything. I thought they sounded pretty good. There's a lot of amateur musicians and they were, they're kind of just getting started. They're local artists. A lot of hip hop. That was, hip hop was the thing that kind of got the most representation. But there was a lot of diversity too in the styles that they all had. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. And I really Yeah, it was much better beyond my expectations because it was kind of a fluke that I had messaged this woman who she was gonna work with the center for a different event, but it ended up not quite getting together. So then I was like, hey, why don't you just come over here and have it, at the Twin Cities Men's Center as part of my event? And because having a bunch of music, that's kind of the whole room, and I don't know, like inviting people over to like have me like say, hey, like I made a poster or something, right? It's kind of hard to think of other things that are like a fun thing to kind of draw people in. So we had a nice balance of it being just like a fun time for people to hang out, and then also, yeah, some good discussion of men's issues. A little bit of that in there, and encouraging people to donate to Twin Cities Men's Center. Hey, Pill Eater's here, having kid cuisine. Unironically, I
Oh,
support
Hill
that.
Eater. I remember Hill Eater from the
Yeah,
time.
go Pill Eaters here representing the Tendy
That's cool
of
because I
our
remember
diet and how now we're all retarded Zoomers, regardless of our age.
I
And
remember Pill
our
Eater.
brains are choo-choo trains. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
I don't even know, didn't even know it was called Pill Eater. I thought it was called Hill Eater, and I only heard about him once because you said he had a stream with Claire Call.
If I remember correctly, he's the one who introduced Ashley to me, which is quite funny in hindsight.
And I don't know who Ashley is.
Ashley, fucking.
No, I know who Ashley is. Sorry, I
Oh, I was
forgot
gonna
that his
say.
name was Ashley. No, I remember Ashley. Because he has actually another name, so therefore I was thinking about that. So I wasn't thinking about him as Ashley, but now I know who you mean with Ashley. Oh, he's awesome.
It's so disappointing that his real name isn't Ashley, though.
I know, right? He's so awesome.
Character. Very disappointing. Very disappointing.
Yeah. Because if it was, then I would have known exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, I had like some photos and stuff from the event. But she sent it to me through like her Instagram link, and like you can't fucking get into Instagram without an account, and it won't let me log in any way I've tried. So I officially gave up on getting into Instagram for tonight. That's like whatever. But I mean, it was a small event. It was just I was hanging out in a room for the most part. But yeah, I mean, for a bunch of people who had no idea that Minneapolis has a men's center for men's issues, and that there is an International Men's Day. Just making those first steps is, I think, very important. And if you go from 0 to any number, that's like an infinite times increase, right? So it's the hardest step is to get something out there. So we've set a bit of a precedent, and then my hope is that year after year, as it's an established thing, that it's easier for people to imagine, oh, here's what I can add, or here's what I could contribute, and then to kind of see if we add a few more twigs to the nest year after year is the dream.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I used because I might have to go to the bathroom later, right? If I need to leave the room, which avatar should I have? Should I have when I have a mustache or when I look like Becky?
Go with the Becky one.
Okay,
That's what my
sure,
instinct says. I did find a video that I figured for the purpose of a stream, I could like go through it and make fun of it just so there's a little bit of structure. I don't know, but I don't know how much meat there is in this video, and I remember watching it, but it's just so infuriating. But it was a video about International Men's Day that was published 8 months ago on this news station that has 1 million subs or whatever. All the comments are negative, which is wonderful. But I thought that was kind of interesting that it was posted on International Women's Day with this clickbait title regarding International Men's Day. And none of the people in the clip really have anything to say that's relevant to the clickbait title. But it's interesting food for thought, because if you do in real life wish someone an International Men's Day, have International Men's Day, they're not just going to take that at face value. They'll have some stupid comment to make about like, isn't every day Men's Day, right? And that's
so fucking retarded. Now you can see I'm Becky.
Well, it's ignorance, right? It's kind of a knee-jerk thing, and that's just where the culture is. So it's kind of interesting to say, well, where does that come from, and what's a good way to address it? Because it's one thing I've realized is if you're doing something in an online space, obviously it's a lot more easy to just like be a Puritan and like have your very strict standards, because there's not really any geographic limit to what you're trying to do necessarily, right? But if you are trying to make something connect with people, geographically and in their community, and then like go into physical spaces, not a lot of people are able to like really think about ideas and stay comfortable, right? So I've learned to appreciate that some people, it's just they're really fragile and it's too easy to stress them out. And even though like anti-feminism is definitely necessary, I'd say that it's basically the lost half of humanism is the easiest way to understand it. Um, but like people have to just come to that conclusion on their own, and the best way to do it is if you keep a positive focus. It's kind of a new approach I'm trying, keeping a positive focus, kind of setting it down there for them to pick up. And the hope is that if someone's genuinely trying to help men and boys, there's absolutely no way that over time they're not going to realize that that they're just doing anti-feminism, because enough feminists are going to get in their way and piss them off and say stupid things that they're going to realize are wrong, right? But people just, it's too big of a pill to swallow. If someone gives it to you, they kind of have to discover it. So I'm trying to keep that as a more three-dimensional approach, see what kind of a difference that makes. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, and we're on the internet right now, so I mean,
but before I answer that, I have to ask you what you think about my Becky picture.
What do you think of what? The picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty. Well done.
Thank you. That was when I had long hair, so I decided I wanted to make a Becky picture. Just because I could.
Yeah, how old is that picture?
It is basically as old as I went to the shack.
Because you grew your hair long to like give it to someone.
Yeah, and then I met her and she didn't want it.
Well, what the fuck?
I know, right? So I still have it somewhere here. She was like in the room.
Did you take her hair?
Right,
I would have taken her hair.
Yeah, true.
I would have taken her hair.
Not like what? But like you, like it doesn't matter. Like you sell it to someone else and get more money. Because
we did actually record the music. The thing is in the men's center they have they're called owls. It's like they're pretty cool, but they're basically video audio, but they're not really acoustically set up to like record music. They're meant to facilitate like a support group meeting there, right? Like people talking, and then on Zoom you can hear them. For that purpose, they're amazing. We haven't quite I'm not sure what the music sounds like as recorded on those, but I maybe it sounds all right, but the audio quality probably took a hit there because it's not like this is a venue built for music, but it filled the space perfectly. But let me just see here. We have a
I basically wanted to. The reason why I found that picture was because I went to the old group chat we have, right, to find a mustache picture that you made to change your mind about needing a government, and I found the Becky picture. I was like,
"You're so set on the facial. You do you, okay? It's all about confidence, right? That's what it's all about."
Honestly, I would also actually want that mustache style to be illegal because it looks so bad.
Yeah, for me, it's just like a cleanliness thing. It's just hair gets oily, and I just remove it.
Oh my god! Because like whenever you have a beard, like all the things that get stuck in it basically falls to your shirt, and then your shirt is like all like flaky and all that. It's not like.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like save snacks for later,
Yeah, but you can't even eat it because it's too flaky.
Oh, you can see my cat in the background, a little cat.
Yes, I could see your
hey,
cat.
Captain, do you want to come say hi? Some people might remember when they were little kittens. Now they're 3 years old. Oh, nice try, buddy. This one doesn't like to cuddle so much, but
okay. I need to ask you something.
I'm sorry. He doesn't struggle, but he protests. He's very polite, very conservative boy.
But I need to ask you one thing. I need to see your face so that you can see your reaction to this. Did you ever watch the cartoon Ed, Edd n Eddy?
Yeah.
But like, if you look at our names now, we're like double D.
I'll let you go. Ed, what do you mean?
Look at our names. We're like double D.
Oh, that's right. So does that mean we're each half of a cartoon character?
Well, you're like only like you're half under here, and I'm like only like my head.
Yeah,
So
no,
it
it's because
doesn't.
I wanted to see I wanted the cat in the picture because he's cuter. Ah.
I'm cuter, bro.
I wonder
I'm.
where his brother is. Hey, buddy, where's your bro? You guys got into a little fight earlier.
You're like my
His
cousin.
brother
I told
always
you
picks the
like
fights,
cats
and
all the
then
time.
Captain always ends them. So I don't really feel bad.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he
Oh, but
does the thing
this
where
one.
he's like, "I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you." And then the moment he does, Captain just. And it's like, and then Elder comes and runs at me and cries about how he wasn't even doing anything, and his brother beat him up, and I'm like, I saw the whole thing. Like, you're such a little dick. So
Yeah.
we have fun over
But, like
here.
the cat sticks are like the worst. They even destroy the vagina.
Shut up.
Oh, but you mentioned cat and dick in the same
I'm trying to
sentence.
think, man. There were so throughout, you know how often I have this habit of saying, "Oh, I have this idea for coming back or whatever," and like channel's just been on hiatus for years now. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what some of those topics were. Like there was a whole trend of influencers getting like accused of, often it wasn't even sexual assault, right? It'd be like a really vague kind of like they were a famous streamer and they groomed me kind of a thing, right? Because what were the two big ones? Now it's been so many months, I barely remember, but I was all ready to really do a deep dive into it because there were a couple of aspects of it that I think not a lot of people caught, even though it was quite thoroughly covered. But do you remember hearing about any of this? I guess you don't follow like the internet drama
I
sphere,
do on
really.
occasion because it's quite entertaining, but it's only for entertaining purposes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is that you try to squeeze stuff out of it, and it can be quite interesting, but it is kind of it's
Like for
kind
me,
of like just like watching the little
more,
characters go
more than
around, like
participating.
like playing with dolls, kind of like. But now it's crazy because so much has been happening in Minnesota, right? Because this is where Jim is from, and then we have all of the Ricada dramas been like basically consumed the entire
I went just
that's
a week
really
ago.
it's really hard to look away. It's quite sad. Because I always thought about that. I was like, man, it'd be really cool if like Nick's kind of in the area. Like at one point, I was like, Nick, what if you were involved in my International Men's Day event? I suppose I wouldn't want to reach out to him now. Might need to let the dust settle on a couple of things and see if things look appropriate because I wouldn't.
Do you want to something interesting?
I have no idea. Well, I have some idea what to expect, which is kind of the problem. But I don't know. Well, sorry, I got on a little bit of tangent there.
Yeah, I
Who was
wanted
it?
to
Who
say
are the guys
something
I'm
about.
thinking of? They got like accused really badly. There was this like Katie, whatever her name was, and she kept coming out again and again and again with more and more revisions of her story, and each time it just became more and more clear that it's like you're just a pathetic damsel and you're lying and it's stupid. But what was so interesting about that is I think that false accusers often get painted as like one person making an accusation, right? But I think there's not enough discussion or not enough use of a term, which I'll coin it in case no one else has, accuser systems. They're systems of accusers. And what a lot of these are is it's like somebody's convinced, right, that they were assaulted because all of their friends are coming and trying to be good friends who weren't even there, and they're saying things like, "Oh, I heard about this. I heard that they wouldn't be sure and that they would doubt it, and I need to be a good, reassuring friend, right?" And I think that it's the friends who then end up convincing a person that it's like some criminal thing and that they should go into it, right. So I think that sometimes it's worth considering that you have these sort of like gray characters on the periphery of these accusations, and these are the real enablers. These are the ones who really put the wind in the sails that cause people who otherwise might maybe have a little bit of introspection and maybe a more like balanced and like logical view or a more accurate view, right, of what had actually happened, and then maybe incorporate that in a constructive way such that they avoid that and they're safer and everyone's better off for it. um, Instead they're pushed into painting it in this black and white way that's very self-serving. And then, of course, it becomes like a sunken cost fallacy. It becomes something where you have no choice but to double down because now you accuse someone of something very, very serious. And I think that if you look at that as like Katie Bug, who had accused, it was like Alex something. I don't even remember. I'll have to go through the history and look at it. I probably shouldn't bring up topics before brushing up on them, but like that was one big thing that had come up, and it was like a pattern because I think there were like 3 or 4 like really big ones, and the accusations were really dubious, and it was really cool to see like yeah, you have like your basic bitch urban monoculture types, right? Your lib shits, your shit libs, or I guess we call them, or whatever the parlance is, doesn't really matter to me too much, but your status quo warriors, they
somehow are not conservative. Even
basically liberals who will just like take the narrative, like they've never seen a rape accusation that they didn't just absolutely just gobble up and love to bits. But then you had like in the drama sphere, which does trend a little more conservative, which is kind of funny. Like that's where you actually see like widespread, or at least I don't know, YouTube or internet's version of mainstream, as far as I can tell, in terms of people who talk about stuff, right? If it's not just like cat video shorts, it seems that there's quite an awareness and a sensitivity to false rape accusations and a willingness to call these bitches out. So there was a little bit of a white pill kind of mixed in there, I thought. In the usual deluge of bad news that we've become accustomed to.
No, but you're right about that. But can I tell you something interesting about Minnesota?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, yes, but let me finish. So it's that, but then it's also because Nick Rekieta and his wife have been having all these court cases here. Of course, people are like going to watch the omnibus hearings and everything like that. And at one point I thought, oh, it'd be kind of funny to go down there and then I could like meet internet weirdos. That'd be kind of interesting. But then I'm like, the whole thing just feels so mean-spirited that
I usually
I'm going to stay away. It's all too sad, And then also, do you know who did go? Do you know who did go?
Go where?
To Minnesota to see the court hearing for Rekieta.
Oh, no, I didn't know who went there for that
Ethan
reason.
Fucking Ralph. Ethan Ralph showed up and made an ass of himself and got himself banished from Minnesota, and then he ran away, and now he's banished from the country. And like that's the big development with Ethan Ralph. Like I could have gotten to see Ethan Ralph in the flesh, and I would have been one of the last people in America who ever would have had that privilege and opportunity, and I have squandered it. And also, Terrence Hitman is here. Wow, he's a real true ride or die. Noticing that my channel posted the things so many years later and hopping right in there. Good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, that is quite impressive, actually. But like, I know several people who went to Minnesota this year, but none of them went for that reason. So,
well, what reason did they go? Were they Somalian? That doesn't really count.
Like one friend was because she's living there. No, he's from there, but she moved to Europe, right? And another 3 classmates who were originally from there, but they were studying in South Africa with me, and then they went back to Minnesota. Oh, can I tell you something funny about one of them?
That's funny though. I could meet up with them and we could take a picture and send it to you. I honestly,
I would like to, but I don't have the numbers.
I'm gonna steal your friends.
But I don't have.
Wouldn't it be crazy if I just happened to meet them and then we both like mutually learned that we knew you? Like randomly.
That was impressive. I wasn't very close to them, but it was kind of funny. What was funny with one of these chicks? Okay.
Yeah, you don't yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here's the funny part.
Often.
Because she's like one of these like, these like sort of feminist types, right? And then like she told me like that she was studying again, so and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then it took me 2 minutes to convince her that having a male only draft is a perfect example of gender-based oppression, and she agreed with it. She agreed with me that it doesn't
argue that point, right? Literally,
she was like, yeah, you're right about it. That is wrong, and that's like gender-based, and that's like not okay.
You know what argument is the most common argument against that?
No, but she agreed with me.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but you know what the most common argument against that is that I've heard? Well, They haven't used the draft, but
That's
they
not-
haven't
well, okay,
conscripted.
then we can get rid of it then. Why do you want
I
to
know.
have
I'm like, I don't know what an insurance policy is either. I don't know what, like, what? Like, I don't know what probability is. I don't know. Oh,
At
well,
least,
I mean,
at
just
least it's
because
not.
like we spin the wheel and you didn't lose, like that doesn't mean we did. Like,
No,
it
that is
just shows you
very
how like
retarded. But like
yeah,
you
a lot of the
don't.
resistance to men's issues and these points is it's really just like vapid. Like there's not really any thought there. Most of it you can kind of just counter with like an incredulous look and a
But
pause.
that's the reason why she was disagreeing with me, because I was obviously correct. So there was
No, I
like
get
no
I was just
reason
saying
to,
in
like.
general though, like for being pessimistic. But I mean that's good.
I mean, like it's kind of hard to like someone basically use because when I use frame something at somebody, it's always trying to make to use what they already believe to justify my conclusion.
Right. Yeah, because
That
then
is
you
very
have
good at
you
convincing
can use
people.
premises that they're not going to argue with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like you are correct, and this is why this is true. Like it's kind of difficult to say no to that, you know.
I mean, if you do that too often, though, then people just won't answer any of your questions because they'll think that you're trying to put them in a trap because you are.
But it's not
But at
trap
the same
because
time, it's like, well, why
I'm
can't you
saying
answer the fucking question about what you think?
but
So,
it's not really a
you
trap
know,
because I'm agreeing with them all the way.
yeah. Well, but yeah, right.
Yes, you're right, and here's why, and this is why this is true. I'm like, you've managed to make everything that they say be a reason to why I'm trying to and then I'll say something, and then whatever they said before is a reason why I'm correct about the other thing.
Like, for example, no feminist will ever tell me to my face that they believe in equality. They're scared. Or they just don't, or they know it's, they know I'm going to start rambling at them and ranting at them.
The funniest part is to basically try to trap these liberal women to say how they can believe in both like trans activism and feminism and see like, because there's like no way they can like because those things like don't go together like very well, if not at all. So there's
Yeah.
kind of like, and that's kind of funny just like to try and do that and see what happens, like to see if they just don't like, then you really trap them.
Well, do you know how ContraPoints resolved all of these issues?
By talking so long that nobody remember what she said initially.
That's actually exactly correct. The ending argument was essentially that it falls into the realm of mysticism and things that we just don't fully understand yet and possibly cannot understand. Like it's almost like a capital A, like hard agnostic approach, right? like
Basically,
that
making
particular
videos
variant
about
of atheism that I find a little bit odious.
like imagine like making that video and making that conclusion for every video for like 5 years and still getting
Well,
a lot of
ContraPoints
views.
doesn't give a fuck. ContraPoints just wants to play dress up.
Well, that's probably the reason why people
Did they
watch
play
it.
dress up? Yes.
Oh, and it's funny.
Right?
She is quite entertaining. I'll give her that. She's entertaining.
Yeah, it was crazy. The video was brought to my attention because there was this YouTuber, King Critical, made a response video of it. Which I mean, I like his videos, what he's made, but it's like, can you get off the tranny shit? Like it'd be really
No, but he's
if you made a video that has anything but trans issues, and it's like, yeah, I feel like you made one video that covered it, and now like, why are we still here? But he went through the ContraPoints video, and I was like, wait a minute, like I saw that. Is this ContraPoints video from like 5 fucking years ago? And I was like, sure enough. And I was like, I remember seeing this. So I got to suffer through it again, but this time with a little with help. But
you're probably right about that, because like
that's literally it. It's like not even controversial. Like ContraPoints would agree.
Yeah, pun absolutely intended. But like, there's something I want to say about men, which is a point that you brought up earlier, which is really good, and I really like agree with that so much because it's so correct. And that is that you said it needs to be a multiplicity of approaches.
Right, because we have no fucking idea what's going to work. And also, every single person is different enough that like it's not unreasonable to think that one particular strategy, which is generally not very appealing or effective, it might just hit that one or two people who otherwise there's no hope. So I mean probably overall, though, the more like accepted approaches tend to also you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how. I don't know if that's like a reason to necessarily set out to do things in a goofy way. But
No,
I
I
think
think
that
it's good to
it's a
have
reason
that
to
approach because
police
you need
people
to
so
attack
much
it
when they find a way that they're comfortable with going about things.
like you need to first like know your audience, right? And then you need to address and you need to, if you have an issue, you need to attack it from every possible standpoint. Like you need to attack it from all directions. And that's basically like the analogy I have for multiplicity of approaches, because if you only think you should do it this way, then you're kind of like limiting your options, and that's not very good, because I just want results. Like this is like one of the few things, but one of the things, or like not few things, because I used to feel this way, is when I just want results, I don't really care how they come by.
If they do what? Sorry.
I just want the results. I don't care about how I get the results.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean the ends justify the means?
Absolutely, because
That's a slippery slope, bro.
everything is slippery slope, apparently. Like my point is just that if you want message, you can't like be you can't just like follow the rule book that the enemies have put up. Like you can't just set too many rules, because you need to be able to address it from multiple angles.
Yeah, well, and I think that like I think that one thing that a lot of that might be really helpful that not a lot of people are trying as aggressive as I think they should is maintaining the right framework, right, of arguments. Because typically, like if I'm listening to anyone who's kind of more cookie cutter conservative, like kind of like a Trump supporting sphere, anything that's more kind of in that area, get a little bit more trad, right? It's frustrating because you can tell that like they don't have an anti-feminist framework. They're still working within the feminist framework very clearly. And it's very, very evident in people like I feel kind of rude calling out the name, but fuck it. Like if you look at like a Yellow Flash video, right? I'm not gonna, great for what he does if that's the kind of content you want, and I do like his content, but I don't really give a shit if a company like loses money on a movie or whatever because they went woke. This doesn't mean you're winning, right? This is a lot. There's a lot of false hope. That's my criticism. Is it's false hope. It's missing the big point. And like these little like Gamergate-esque victories, right? The whole Sweet Baby shit and Gamergate 2 and everything. There's no real victory there. It's just a lot of grave dancing that the progressives aren't winning as much as they thought they were. But ultimately, the fact that they're still in that position is the winning, and they're not going to have the comeuppance that people think they are through the market, especially not if the people who are critical of it aren't really using a proper anti-feminist framework that really, really rejects feminism and refuses to give them ground that they haven't earned. So
I mean, like do you mind if I tell you my approach to men's issues have become recently?
Sure.
Like to me, I do agree with your anti-feminism. I think that's a very good thing. But like when I approach men's rights issues, I don't want to explicitly, nominally, or like self-identify it as being anti-feminist, because that just could turn like people who aren't really in the know might just be turned off by it if you frame it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a scary word. I mean, it's useful if someone's engaging with the ideas enough that it's just useful. Where it's like, yeah, some people are anti-feminists, and like that's fine. Like we can exist and you can tolerate us. Like we do exist and we are people. Like we're not
right. But I don't like think that.
So part of it is like I want to like let people know it's like, yeah, you've met and interacted with an anti-feminist, and like it's not that fucking scary. Like stop being such a pussy and like let us have our fucking spaces. So sometimes I think there's definitely a lot of context where like anti-feminists need to stop being afraid a little bit. But that being said, people legitimately, if you have, I guess, the kind of job or career where like that's really a risk, I'm not going to say it's like an obligation on anyone.
But it's also that I think that anti-feminists, they just talk about feminism, and I think that like the most important things isn't obviously isn't feminism. It's a lot of
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point because it is true that there's such a thing as being just too much in it for the anti-feminism and then not taking a step back to be like, well, like why, really why though? Like what? How, like if we say that, oh, feminism is bad because they're hypocrites. Well, what's the impact of the hypocrisy? It's the fact that men and boys don't have the same rights and privileges that women and girls take for granted every single day.
and then you have this individual, like random, like self-identified feminist who basically said, "Yeah, I actually wanted to be equal," and she actually means it, right? And then she will basically said, "But if you say you're anti-feminist, then how can I think that you want the same thing?" And then you basically like have to convince her about why feminism is bad, rather than to convince her why men's rights issues are important and why they should be prioritized. And that's kind of like.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of like this creates a lot of unnecessary things to do that you actually would want to like skip and just go and like cut to the chase, because it's kind of like
Right, because then you're too caught up on like labels and things, and ultimately, like a person could just define the labels differently and then just use different words. And if you know that that's how they use the words, it's the same difference. It's just annoying, right? So, or you could just as easily say, "Oh, well, anti-feminists are the real feminists because we're the ones who actually want equality under the law." And when you say anti-feminist as lowercase a as like a pejorative, well, actually our major departure and our criticisms of feminism are that it's way too anti-feminist, right?
yeah,
Like you could just switch the words because after you define them differently, if they're really really dead set on being a feminist cradle to grave, and say, okay, well, how about we just identify what it is that we're actually doing here, because if they're actually about equality and you keep that as the focus, then say, okay, well, you can keep your label. And it's like, oh, look what you're doing. You're focusing on men's issues now, because like I've always said, if the feminists wanted to, just blow the anti-feminists out of the water and just put a fucking stop to everything, all they have to do is just use a tiny fraction of their power and influence and resources to address some of these issues.
yeah. Like I actually seen one example of that. I think it was one feminist who actually, or two times, actually opened a men's shelter in Texas just because a bunch of guys were bitching enough about it, so she did
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
why I say keep bitching. Just keep bitching.
Well, and that was that stupid bitch from Netflix, Sachi or whatever, and like she tried to cover it. She covered it to try to argue like, oh, MRAs are so stupid they don't even realize what's happening. And it's
yeah,
like,
but they're the reason why
the Honey Badgers covered it really really well, because it's like they were literally like within a couple miles of like what is it, the organization, like Cafe, like their headquarters or whatever. It was like a group like that where like they could have gone, like people that they're talking about in their fucking documentary, they could have like gone and talked to them and included them, and they were like right there. And it's like they were very deliberate and selective. They knew what kind of story they were trying to paint. And it was it's like one of the most like terribly like dishonest, and like if you do read between the lines, it's all of these exceptions just proving the rules, that everyone's been saying. So
but it's not just that, but like the funny is that she basically said, well, they don't know what I'm doing, and I'm like, they are literally making you do their work for them.
Yeah, like that only
like,
exists.
Isn't that kind of like, and you don't
Yeah.
even know that? Like, isn't that kind of like them being very like clever, and like they're literally manipulating you and you don't even see it? Like, which is great, but like,
And honestly, that's probably one of the biggest barriers to men's issues, is that the feminists would have to admit that the MRAs were right. And I'd like to think that like women maybe hate each other enough that enough feminists would be totally willing to just throw all the other feminists that came before them under the bus and just say, yeah, fuck those bitches. Like they do that with Andrea Dworkin all the time. It's not that fucking hard. Hey, it's all the Dwork side. They're all Andrea Dworkin. Just rub your eyes and then look at all the feminists. Oh, wow, it's just a sea of Andrea Dworkins. It's all Andrea Dworkin all the way down, from Alice Paul to... There's some stupid bitch whose name has like a Z in it. That bitch. She might have been the one who screamed at Humongous. Anyway, that
character. Yoshi.
A to Z. Just throw those bitches under the bus, and then give them an olive branch, which is they get to have a redemption arc. And that's fine. Everybody loves a redemption arc. Who cares?
That's awesome.
Everybody acts like that's so fucking hard. Just do it.
Because like we can see,
That's
a
my
lot of
message.
people. We can see a lot of
Have you
people
considered
actually
just
changing their mind.
snaking all those other bitches? You know you want to. You know you'd love it. You would. Oh, how fun would that be? Come on. You get to finally experience how fun it is to be anti-feminist. Come on, just twirl your mustache and snake those bitches. And then if you feel bad about it, you give them a little redemption arc. You're helping them.
Yeah, but it is actually.
We're going to send an email. We solved it. Elam's gonna come here. He's gonna give me a high five. Warren Farrell show up. He'll give me a hug because he's a koala bear.
I mean, like, I actually do have some criticism of Warren Farrell, to be honest.
Huh?
I have a criticism of Warren Farrell.
Oh yeah, me too. Oh, did you also see the City Crusher video?
No, do you want to hear my criticism of him?
I mean, I saw. So City Crusher. Have you been following any of his content?
No, I have no idea what that means.
Oh my god, do it! Fucking do it! It's phenomenal. He's you know what? He's been going through. He's been killing a lot of sacred cows in the anti-feminism sphere. He's been a very, very challenging figure. And I say I've taken quite a lot from his approach and from his overall style. Definitely spicy content though, but I have a lot of respect for it because it is quite unique. It does speak back to a plurality of approaches. And it's every time I see his videos, I really, really don't want to agree. I every time I kind of want to like find a way to agree about 75%, but then often I just can't, and I'm like, oh man, fuck. Oh, then he pulled up a new video, and I'm like, I'm not sure if my soul needs this right now. I have to kind of digest them over time, but I'll just leave it at that. It's been challenging.
Oh, but by the way, may I say my criticism of Warren Farrell?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, it's gonna take a while because here's basically what it is, right? He basically did
a
good
but thing. The next time you ask permission, I'm gonna say no just on principle, because you have to know to not. You should just talk about the thing if it's topical.
Okay, I'll do that. but basically, what he basically did, he did something really good thing. He basically went to a lot of the Democratic candidates, like Andrew Yang and many other things, and brought up all the men issue and the boy issues. He didn't go Tulsi Gabbard though, but he went to all like the bigger ones, right? And then he brought up this and this and this and this, and they were like, yes, we agree, but we can't do anything about that because we don't want to lose the feminist vote. And if feminists are all about equality, that wouldn't be the case, but it is, and candidates know it. And therefore, and not just that, but then like the former like Secretary of Education in the U.S., Betsy DeVos, actually did a lot of things to prevent innocent men and also women from being expelled from universities on the false accusations, and to fix a lot of the Title IX kangaroo court problem, which is a horrible disaster. Right? She actually
fixed that. Biden might have reversed a lot of that.
Yeah, she fixed all that, and then Biden said before he's going to reverse that. So, and Warren Farrell knew both of these things. He knew both of these things, and then he still went to vote for Biden anyway. And I'm like, but do you actually care about men's issues if you would do that? Like, it doesn't, like, to me, like, then okay,
because abortion
is more important to have open borders and like social programs. Like, what the fuck?
No, you see, because like 49% of American women are pro-choice, and therefore abortion is the number one women's issue.
I'm like, is actually more women against it than in favor of it, right?
It's real close to 50-50
than men there are against.
Yeah, I go with calling 51% the pro-choice or giving it to the pro-life, just because that is funnier because it's ironic. But either way you split it, the top two gendered issues in America are number one, abortion, and number two, abortion. Right? Like, so the first one is abortion, parentheses, pro-life. Second one, abortion, parentheses, pro-choice. Or vice versa. They trade spots, but
I actually think abortion is not important
at all. I'll suggest that it'd be nice if we could hear fuck all about abortion for a while.
Like, there's not like a single state in the US that would have a blanket ban on abortion. That's not going to happen. So they're used to having it for no reason. They're used being stupid. Like, there's like nothing that's going to happen about that. The only thing that's going to happen is that some states are going to have laws that are stricter than European countries, and some say we like laws that are more lax than European countries, but it's always going to look like the average European country, and abortion is not the most important right in the average European country. Like, and it isn't like, so why are they
It's
pretending
just
it's
too
a
much
thing
of a
in
well.
America?
It's because the thing is it's not even about the practicality of it, right? Like those are the talking points, but I mean, it's about being told you're not allowed to do something, and that's it. It could be anything. That's truly what I believe. It's
But
because
keep
because
all
they
my
grow
money,
up with
don't
the
be
feeling
taxed.
of an entitlement to this thing, and the perceived having taken it away is what they're reacting to. So it could have been anything. Like it just happens to be abortion. Abortion just really fits for a number of logistical reasons. But yeah, like we have YouTube sucks in the chat pointing out. Yeah, Dems leaned really hard on abortion. Yeah, that was the entire platform, and the Republicans actually they made an uncharacteristically really smart counter argument because the Democrats jumped the shark so fucking hard in their scaremongering that the Republicans could just say all of these examples of like women not getting medical care for abortion related reasons, like every single fucking time, it was because she believed some histrionic fucking lie that the Democrats were spreading. So like the Democrats were literally like just spreading misinformation, dangerous misinformation, which resulted in at least one death, right? And then tried to hold up these corpses to parade around to try to like scare women into voting for them. And it's like it's gross, absolutely fucking gross. I mean, my sympathies are limited though. Like to make all these like really big rash decisions just based on fucking rumors you heard through politics, and to not like just look into the way any of this medical care works, particularly for like things you have time to look into. I don't know, like, but I mean, I guess whatever. Maybe we're judging a little too much, but again, it's
And also, it's like, just think about it. Like,
party of
if a woman really needed an abortion, like before the election, why couldn't she just get it before the election?
well, I mean, it's life happens, whatever.
Right, but if you
But
really need an abortion, you should get it ASAP or not at all.
life happens and feelings change, whatever. I'd keep
No,
it
no,
going.
I know that, but
It's
here's the
complicated
deal: if
enough.
somebody is to be if somebody wants the right to an adult, they need to have a responsibility of an adult, and that
Right. Well, I
means
mean,
if you
so
get pregnant, you need to have an abortion either early as fuck or not at all.
well, I mean, the problem though is your arguments are contingent on the pro-life stance being at least somewhat true, right? But
Because
that's
it
also
is somewhat true.
right. So the question is, so the issue with abortion is are the pro-lifers right? That's the only question, right? Because if it's correct that there's personhood and that it's murder, all of the pro-choice arguments are irrelevant. But if they're wrong and it's not personhood and fetal human whatever they are, they're not beings, therefore they don't have moral concerns or rights or anything.
I can actually explain.
Then you don't have to make any pro-choice argument. You just win. You can just like abort with impunity whenever the fuck you want, however the fuck you want, right?
But then
Like,
you can shoot everybody in the head with this community as well, because just threatening your body and they're inconveniencing you.
well, no, because there's no, we're not contesting whether or not like viable adult humans have personhood. That's not tricky for anyone, really, right?
Having that a 7-month fetus don't have personhood, everybody understands that unless they're fucking idiotic.
Right.
The entire continent of Europe understands that.
Yeah, right. Like right before birth, right, where it's literally just like a change in address. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the side.
I'll say this.
Science.
I definitely lean more towards the pro-life position, and like
But
I think
in America, that's because it's obvious because the Democrats are fucking crazy. Here's the
not
thing.
even that. I mean, first of all, I mean, if you're totally agnostic, then the prudent position, personally, right, would be to avoid that because you don't know how you're going to feel about it later or anything like that, and it's not like you can undo it once you've done it, right? So it's just prudent to avoid it at all costs, right? Like, maybe not at all costs, but it's prudent to avoid, and never been easier to avoid.
But it's not. But it's actually not that a complicated issue. Actually, a very simple issue. It basically is this: if it's morally acceptable or ethical in any to have to show to have an abortion in 8 months because you want to? Absolutely not, and everybody understands because it's obvious. Is it good to make it illegal to have an abortion after 1 week of pregnancy? No, that would be ridiculous to have that be illegal. So the question is not if, but it's when, right? Like, it's obvious that early abortion is not really a problem, and it's obvious that later abortion are like horrendous and should be illegal. Like,
But
and
that's part of the problem, right? Is like it's a little bit arbitrary. Like it's tricky.
No, it is arbitrary, like exactly where you're gonna draw the line, but therefore you can like.
But that's the entire problem, you know. Like,
no, there's no problem because like even if some countries have 16 weeks, some countries have 12, some countries have 18. It's not like that's not very important. As long as it should be somewhere there, it shouldn't be. Pardon?
No, it's a problem because we don't have the absolute best correct answer, and we're not sure of it.
But we don't need the correct answer.
We're playing a guessing game with whether or not people have personhood and whether or not we're murdering babies, right? Like that's, you know, to me, it's like that's like the kind of the most compelling pro-life angle is that it's like if you have any amount of humility, right, then you can see that there's something that's probably to be avoided, even if there's absolutely no merit in truth, right? But I mean, to me though, like the abortion is more of like a signpost of society. It's like I don't really give a shit.
Generally, I mean, like, it's basically like here's basically why that's such a like terrible thing. It is mainly because like there is never, and this is actually something I will defend to the fucking like point. There is never a reason why anybody would need to have an abortion for non-medical reason in the 3rd trimester. And I'm just gonna stand on that because that's just.
Oh wait, you're saying you're saying there's no medical reason to get an abortion?
A non-medical reason.
In the no non-medical reason in, did you say the 1st trimester?
No, 3rd.
In the 3rd. No non-medical reason. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like there's like no reason why you should.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I think that probably checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so therefore, like, just have that be illegal, period, and then all the earlier stages you can like, you know, do what the fuck you want. You state, yeah, have it, like, kind of whatever. But like, ideally, I think it should be illegal the 2 latest trimesters. But like, that's it's not like that important, I suppose.
I mean, I guess I guess I'm not being very clear. All I mean to say is like, I'm not interested in trying to make the argument that sways people on the topic of abortion as it is, right? Like my go-to is, hey, ever heard of legal paternal surrender / paper abortion? Because I feel like that's an unbeatable argument, and like it actually does really fuck up pro-choice people when you tell them like, oh, like reciprocal right for the father because, you know, consent to sex isn't consent to parenthood. I think that just like pointing out the draft, that's like another really just compelling, obvious thing. That's like, oh yeah, why don't we do that? That just seems obviously fair.
I mean, like to me, I basically concluded it's actually people is making it more complicated than it has to be. Like, why can't you just take a country in Europe? I don't know, take like Sweden or like Germany, or Poland, and then you take their abortion laws that they have now, and then you just have it in your country too. Like it's not a big deal if you just make it that way. Like,
well, because you're European, so of course you would think about comparing it to European like laws. America's like,
because they're logical.
You don't know anything about your fucking laws. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but like I just can't see why Americans are so cannot like.
You're just different states with funny hats and stuff.
No, but I can't say why Americans cannot, for the fucking very life, just say 3rd trimester abortion is obviously abhorrent and should be illegal, and really early abortion is not really a problem, and making it illegal is kind of stupid. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, you're basically repeating.
Understand that because it's really, really easy.
This is like the moderate Republican position, and also I think a lot of people fall in that camp, which is
basically everybody. I think like 98% of.
So I think that the Republicans snag a lot of those pro-choice votes that way too. I just want to address the chat a little bit too. They're kind of echoing a lot of the themes we're talking about
because like it's so obvious.
Wait, I just said I was going to read the chat.
Like if you ask like
I just said I was going to read things in the chat. Wait.
Oh god, I thought you said something
I
into.
just want to say shout out to Death to Zionism and Feminism. Hey, I hope you found a home here because I agree. YouTube Sucks added earliest premature baby to survive was born at 21 weeks into pregnancy. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware that it was. I'm not surprised. And that's the point that we really need to segue into, which is that abortion, as it is, which is synonymous with quote unquote lethal abortion, right? Once we have non-lethal abortion, this entire thing is just going to be some stupid, antiquated argument that no
I mean,
one
like,
even
if,
cares
but here's the
about.
deal.
Which is
If
once
you
we have artificial uteri, then we'll have non-lethal abortion, and then no more issue. Just with
yeah, exactly,
technology, we'll solve it.
we like to say to that, like when it comes to this, is that if you ask the average person in basically every society, if they think abortion in like the third term is like 8 or 7 months, if they think that's acceptable, it should be legal. Almost everyone, regardless of where you are, is going to say no, that should be illegal. And if you ask, in like at least Western countries, do you think abortion in the first week of pregnancy, do you think that should be legal? Almost everybody's going to say no, it should not be illegal. So there's already consensus here. It's just that the insane fucking Americans that are not most Americans, just a few of them, that either want everything or nothing, are basically saying no, it needs to be all the way one way and all the way the other way. It's actually some very common in the US that people cannot find a moderate position on certain issues. It's either all this way or all that way.
That is
And I
interesting.
just find it to be so
I
fucking
never thought of
immature.
that abortion isn't really an issue in Europe, despite the fact that I mean, you're suggesting like basically universally third trimester would be banned. Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
It's
I mean, I
like,
guess. Yeah.
it's so
I mean, but
easy.
here's the thing: I'm an American, and I didn't really, I wasn't really aware of that. That's not really on my radar, right? I wouldn't think of that being a useful argument. But yeah, I'm convinced that kind of makes sense. I guess for people, especially the people who like believe in democracy, right? If they're gonna go for like, oh, the will of the people and everything,
Yeah, neither, but like
find
the
that
will
pretty
of the
comforting.
people here, but because like it's not like a very hard question. It's just like people you try to make it hard, because so many Americans want it all this way or all that way, and there can be no compromise. When almost everybody, including most Americans, would be fine, would actually prefer it being somewhere in between. Like it's not that hard for. It's not like that. It's not that controversial, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's different though if it's the question of like what actually is the truth. So I get what Death Design points out, like, well, why stop at the third trimester, right? Like I guess I'm more sympathetic toward the extreme pro-life side than the extreme pro-choice side.
Well,
But
anybody
then,
with a brain should be, so yes.
yeah, but then of course, you got that thought experiment where it's like, oh, you got a burning building and there's a bunch of like fertilized eggs that are frozen and you could save thousands of them, some arbitrarily large number. Oh, but also there's like a screaming baby in the other room and you can only save one from the fire. So are you going to save the living baby and let all of those frozen embryos die? Or are you going to save all the frozen embryos and let the baby die?
Oh, I have a very easy answer for this.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an easy answer.
No, I have an answer for the whole things. Is that there is no need for any thought experiment or any argumentation, because the fact that third trimester abortion is abhorrent and should be illegal, and really early abortion is stupid and how that be illegal.
Oh,
therefore, you don't need to get into it because it's obvious.
Well, no.
It's like saying that, well,
you're
is
just
it
using
really true that
emotivism.
1 + 1 = 2? And I'm like,
It's just
yes, like,
emotivism, dude.
like,
you didn't solve it. You just used emotivism. You just
exactly.
said, hey,
you
just said, I'm going to do it so emotionally convenient, and look, most people agree with me. It's like, well, yeah,
Exactly,
that's you didn't solve it. You didn't solve it. You cheated. That's not.
But you don't need to solve it.
That's literally the same as saying you solved it by making up a way for you to save both. It's cheating. Does not count.
Right, but here's basically my whole point about this, right? It's that.
Yeah, what do you think? Does that count? Okay. Does that satisfy the thought experiment to say, oh, well?
No, it actually doesn't. Well, it basically satisfies the source behind having one. Here's basically what I have, right? And that is that in reality, I have established why it is actually not a hard issue to solve because most people already understand what should be legal, what should be illegal, and what should be legal in this context, right?
No, they don't. They just
Yeah,
happen to have a popular
everyone in
view.
Europe
They
does.
just happen to
Basically,
have a
98%
popular
of the
view
entire
that's very
continent.
palatable.
Pardon?
They just happen to have a popular view that's very palatable.
And that's all you need.
No, but that doesn't prove anything. So it doesn't.
Well, you already know,
logical fallacy.
I need to get to the point.
Populace.
But I need to get to the point I'm trying to make, and it's actually like much more simpler. And here's the point.
All right.
That is
and then I want to move on to my silly video that we're gonna watch.
Right. But here's the deal, and that is that if you that's a simple issue, and you solve it that way. And the reason why it's good to solve it that way very quickly is because there are way more important issues and this issue is you taking up too much fucking conversation. So if you
so it goes back to your pragmatism.
I did it, which is palatable and it works, and it was done in basically 4 continents already. 4 continents are agreeing with me on this, right? It's only America who can't get it, right? If 4 continents already get this, and it's not a problem, and because they already solved it, by the way, I did it right now, then why can't we use more important issues? If you look at men's issues, like there's like 15, to make a very conservative estimate, but basically 200 that are more important than this issue. Right. So whenever people want to get to the nitty-gritty about where is it actually, it's more about where do we draw the line, what's philosophical, all is a red herring because 4 continents already solved this issue.
You know what? This argument I will accept. This is a critique. This is a critique of the question and the problem. So I mean, you're still a wiener and you're still fucking dodging out of it. But this one I'll accept on grounds that you found a higher criterion through pragmatism to achieve men's issues. I can accept that as I'll let that stand. That doesn't bother me too much.
If it's a problem solved by 4 continents, where everybody basically gets it, and that is to say that, do you honestly think that the average person in Africa, South America, Europe, and Oceania is that smart? But if they can get it, then why can't Americans get it?
You see this fucking banger of a comment? I wonder if human women can be surrogate mothers to animal babies. Why? Why'd you have to fucking derail my entire goddamn brain immediately? Shit, oh my god, this would make the fucking best premise for like a harem anime, right? Shit, it should be like a gacha game. Like you start off with like one surrogate, right? And then like the gachas are like the animal embryos, and then like if you pay gems, you can have multiple, and so you can have more of them. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't go down this rabbit hole here.
I mean, like, actually, no, it's not the rabbit hole, but it's actually one thing that I think is very important. That is that why isn't like
this sci-fi bullshit?
No, that is that surrogacy should be holy fucking this I'm sorry, but this like
to anything but bonobos, please.
Okay, no, but here's the first.
Thanks, Zionism, for making it like the taking it to like the absolute worst thing you could. Black and white. Which kind of anarchism is this? Is this like? Oh, sorry, Drew. Did he disconnect? I was being a little rude, but I got, like I said, a little disconnected. I know all the other anarchies. If it was pink, if it was green, if it was red, if it was yellow. Oh, it's agorism, right? Black and white is agorism. I knew this, right? Or did Agora do a different one? Yeah, it's agor. I should have known that. How embarrassing. I've been offline way too long. You chose it because it blends with the YouTube background. People are going to think you're an agorist. Which maybe you are. It's not. It's a great philosophy. It's basically like there's no political solution. The black market is massive, and eventually the black market is going to completely eclipse the white market. And once the government realizes this, that's going to be the point where either the government reasserts its power and control against the black market, which is literally going to be over 99% of the economy at this point, right? Or they just kind of quietly fuck off and abolish themselves and then just cross their fingers that everybody else doesn't fucking lynch them later. So, and that's cool because we're going to achieve it just through capitalism. Like you don't have to convince anyone of anything. It's just eventually human production and luxury is just going to reach a point where that's inevitable. So I don't know, maybe there's a little false hope there, but I know that's my understanding of it just in general, and I think it's cool. Welcome back. Did you get disconnected? I was like, oh, I hope we didn't get annoyed that I was like.
No, it's fine. I was just my computer was being a bitch. I couldn't change my avatar because I need to like change shirts. I wanted to be able to show my avatar like the mustache I had when they changed your mind on government, because it's this one.
Yeah, that is pretty bad.
I know, right? It's so
Doesn't look
bad.
like you.
And I'm gonna leave it here just because it's funny.
Makes you look very straight, but not in a good way. Typically, if you were butching up a bit, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. But this is
Like, that must be the most perfect insult that one could actually make.
it's a pretty funny insult.
It's so good. I fucking love it. It's so insulting. You actually see it as a compliment because of the effort, because of like the perfection of it.
Yeah, I think your hair texture is it's so curly, it's so wild, that you're
Yeah, that's the reason why this is so
it's gonna
funny
be an
to have.
uphill battle to fight the puby texture of the facial hair. I can only imagine.
Oh yeah, but it looks like this.
Sorry, but if we're gonna bring it back to mustaches, you're just gonna get roasted because we have a mission. Okay, we have something to focus on. And
yeah, I need to go to the bar for a second.
Something teachable here in this gay little video. I just need to figure out how to StreamYard. Oh yeah, I just need to make it its own tab and then add it to the thing. Sorry, we're boomering just a little bit, but StreamYard is just way easier than trying to have all the bells and whistles with OBS and everything, Okay, so I have this screen layout and then present. I act like they make it hard. Share screen, and then we choose the video. Okay, we did it. Let me just see. What does the tab look like? I'm watching it live on my other computer here to see what it... Why isn't the screen up? I don't get it. Am I sharing or no? Oh, yeah, now it is. Sorry, I'm just delayed. Okay, let's go.
Every day is International Men's Day.
Do you think we still need to have an International Women's Day?
Absolutely. Vital part of our community, vital part of our society. I think it's very much important that we highlight how great they are and what problems we've had in our past, not identifying that.
It's really helpful to keep raising the awareness and talking about things because, yeah, we're still not there in terms of completely equitable at the moment.
Doesn't worry me, really. Got no thought.
I think it's nice for us to think about what we can enjoy, what maybe our parents or grandmothers couldn't enjoy, like working, even though we complain about it a lot.
Working, driving, those are things that my grandma couldn't do. And
okay, so enough has been said so far to respond to in this first minute here. So you can't hear the interviewer's question, and it seems like the question changes, and it's not the question which is in the title here. So like overall, this is like a really, really shitty, like stupid video. But I mean, you can kind of... So for some of them, the question is like, what do you think of there being an International Men's Day, right? And of course, we have the obvious stupid knee-jerk response of, well, every day is Men's Day. And a man saying, well, I never thought of anything that I'd want as a man. I mean, the obvious thing that's happening, right, is like men, like how Warren Farrell has this big saying, he says, women, what is it? Women don't hear what men don't say, right? Oh, you're just muted. Okay. That's what they always say. But I think there's another way to look at that, right? It's like men don't hear what men don't say, right? So a lot of these issues, if they're only affecting other men, well, why would you know about it just because you're male? First of all, right? It's taken for granted that men would talk to each other about gendered issues with each other the way that women would, even though the reason that a lot of women talk about these issues is because there's been like a top-down movement that rewards them for doing it and encourages them to do it and says it's a good thing for them to do it. And they do this on grounds that if they didn't, there wouldn't be consciousness raising. That's what they called it. They said, we need to go and do consciousness raising because all of these battered women, they don't realize that they're battered women until we teach them that they're battered women, right? So I mean, these arguments are ubiquitous and fully accepted within the feminist framework. it's not at all difficult to imagine, like, well, men who essentially have like no movement, you know, it makes perfect sense based on at least that component of feminist theory that that man would say exactly what he did say, right? There's been no consciousness raising, so of course he's unconscious to the need or the value for having a men's day. And then you have like these girls here. They're probably technically women, but just from their, you know, these are girls. Like they're girly, which is to say like childish. They're trying to think of things that they're thankful for and just imagining, right, or at least trying to. But basically, all they can do is think, oh well, I can drive and I can work. People couldn't do that before. So I wonder, like, what did they even have any kind of knowledge or any kind of an image of what daily life would have been like for that generation of their family, right? Because conceivably they have some kind of a idea of what things were like for their mother or their grandma or their great grandma, but apparently absolutely no concept whatsoever for the male half of the family. And they immediately, you know, go in to clarify, oh, but we complain about work. Well, wait a minute. Now that you're working, you notice, you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Yet there doesn't seem to be any kind of conscious application of this through history to think, oh, well, it's not like these men had any kind of a choice. They were working. I don't really like my job that much. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they were suffering a little bit. Maybe they were actually making sacrifices. And, you know, it's a little bit rude to depict that as patriarchal oppression and control with malicious intent. So, I mean, I get it. It's all low-hanging fruit. I think anyone in the chat, like, nothing's terribly groundbreaking here. But we'll see if anything else. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that really, really stuck out as egregious. It might just be another couple minutes of the same. But we'll see if they give us a little more meat here. But I think it is interesting to consider, like, if a man says, well, I don't need anything as a man, I have no need of it. I mean, you could ask them what they know about men's issues. They know nothing, right? You know they don't know anything because they wouldn't say that if they did. But then also, well, if they know anything about feminist theory, link it back to the second wave consciousness raising and the domestic violence movement and say, well, hey, you know, if we have a bunch of battered men, they're not going to fucking know about it, are they? Because you guys haven't done any consciousness raising. You've done quite the opposite.
Not just that, it's also like when like, even if like you may not have any problem as a man now, it doesn't mean you won't have a problem because of your sex later. And it's better to be preventative in solving issues rather than to just have hindsight.
Yeah, well, and I think it's worth echoing. You know, Paul Liam took some shit for this, but at one point he had a sentiment saying, like, you know, kind of fuck these guys, right? Like, where the fuck were you? Right? Like, the men's rights movement has been around for like 50 plus years. You know, if you count the mythopoetics, if you really go back and look. So where the fuck were you? Oh, now your kids got taken away. Oh, now you have a divorce and now you care, right? I know that's harsh, right? And I know that's not the most constructive view, but I think it's worth thinking about that, right? Like, there is kind of some degree where it's like you do have an obligation to step up, like if for nothing else, maybe as an insurance policy, so that just in case you need it later, you look like less of a dick, which may not be the best motivation. But hey, if that's something to maybe get men to think about men's issues before it's too late, you know, prevention is the cure for their own sake. But then, of course, you know, they're helping other men who weren't as fortunate to maybe, you know, have the right circumstances or the right information in time. So, and then of course, yeah, I think with these girls here, it's like when they talk about being thankful for things that their previous female family didn't have, where's the thought and the empathy towards the male half? And is it really that much easier, right, to empathize with the gendered half if we start to go up generations distantly where the lifestyle is so radically different enough that, like, to be a woman living 100 years ago or a man living 100 years ago, both of those roles are radically different from anything that any man or woman really does in the modern day, if you really break it down and think about how different it is with technology. So I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a red pill there. Maybe it'll be easier to empathize with the other sex if we go back far enough in time because everything's different. Nah.
More important to talk about because if you look at demographics and like problems that buyer groups face, right, which does include men because they're a very broad buyer group, and that is that it's more important to look at issues that a group faces today that's actually impacting the lives of people of that group as we speak, than issues that impacted a lot of people who are already dead, like or who had the problem in the past, but it's in their past. Like, yeah, it's like it's a little bit more important to fix things that are still ongoing than to talk about things that happened in before.
I mean, that's a good point too, right? Because they're just kind of talking about a gay little sentiment of like being thankful, which, I mean, I guess that's nice, right? But yeah, you're right. It's not forward thinking, and in theory, that's kind of part of the point of this. That's certainly the point of International Men's Day. It's not just to like reflect and be thankful for men. It is to be like, these are a bunch of problems and we should do something about it. It's very much an advocacy day, which is, one thing I like about it. All right, let's get another couple minutes into this. I'm gonna speed it up too because.
Wait, we can ask something about the headline. Why?
Speed. We're gonna put it on double speed. We're gonna give it like at least a couple more minutes, and then just anything that just remember. Let's see. Where is?
No, before you talk, like, why is it called Why Men's International Day Shouldn't Be Allowed?
Yeah,
what the fuck does that even mean? What do you mean allowed?
It's a clickbait title.
Absolutely.
Title. They don't even ask that question to anyone, nor is there anything editorial that even suggests as much. So it's
I'm like, should Mother's Day be allowed?
We have to read between the lines to figure out what question they probably got asked.
Like, I don't know, the road.
You have to just accept it. You got to just accept it. Let's go.
I'm taking lessons now.
It feels almost a bit like pitiful. Like, let's have a week and we'll remember women, and then it's pressure to the carpet, and it's yesterday's news. Yeah.
Okay, wait. I cannot understand these people at double speed.
No, neither can I.
Wow. Maybe they. It's like they talk so fast and say nothing. We'll do 1.25. It's a little less ambitious.
Things that my grandma couldn't do, and I'm taking lessons now.
It feels almost a bit like pitiful. Like, let's have a week and we'll remember women, and then it's pressure to the carpet, and it's yesterday's news. Yeah.
I think we're still
okay. That one right there. Those bitches. She's ungrateful. She's like, oh yeah, it's like women get like a week or whatever, and then it's just like back to normal. Like, what's the deal with that? Could you fucking imagine if on International Men's Day, it was like, yeah, it's kind of cool I have like one day, but then it's like over. That's fucking bullshit. And give that guy a goddamn medal. Like, let's fucking go. I want that. I want that so bad. I want us to give men a day and for it to be a big, extravagant, awesome day, and for men to be like, I mean, that's cool, I guess, for a day. I mean, fuck you. Like, what else you got, right? I would love to just see that entitlement overflow because honestly, men kind of are entitled to it. And it's kind of like, yeah, maybe maybe cash out a little bit so we can have some fucking balance.
Oh yeah, fuck, I am entitled to a lot of things because other people have them, they work less for it.
I want that gender flipped. We need less of women like that. Sorry, no, you're completely wrong. 180 degrees backwards, but we'll take that attitude. Just see men mimic some of this. Like, anyway, this guy is infuriating. This guy is like a perfectly trained blue pill cucked feminist. It's sad. It's like he's dead already.
Well, fuck him.
I'll let him speak for himself, but you'll see exactly what I mean, dude.
Kind of going through getting gender equality in kind of workspaces, so it's important to kind of remind that, to keep pushing that goal forward.
I work in engineering. It's very male dominated.
He thinks that it's gender equality in the workforce is really important, but he really wants to emphasize that just because we've made so many strides to, celebrate, that doesn't mean we should ever stop. So he's...
But why even is gender equality in the workforce?
Well, because he probably believes in bullshit like the pay gap, and to him,
Yeah, if
you know,
anybody believes it, then
Yeah.
anybody who believes it is a fucking idiot. Like if someone
yeah, and if
actually
the
believes, I'm like,
board isn't 50-50, then that's because all of the women are like tied up in a basement somewhere, That's all you
yeah,
gotta say.
they
People
can
just buy it.
start
Yeah.
their own corporations and make more money then.
Yeah, people who like unironically fucking care about gender equality in the workplace, they're like fucking aliens to me. I think that's like the stupidest fucking thing.
Like what? Like there's like nothing more important to care about. Like, I mean, like at least like the radical like racial separatists from every ethnicity have a better point than they do.
Wait,
Essentially, everybody has a better
radical
point.
separatists? Are we saying have a better point? I mean, I probably agree.
Everyone got a better point, even them. That's my point.
Sorry, which ones?
Everyone.
Oh, all of the separatists?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, why did I ask which one? That's a good point. All right, let's see what she has to say.
There's a lot of obstacles that I have to overcome that my male counterparts don't.
That was it. Right? So that assumption is why feminism fuels female supremacy and female supremacist attitudes. And that's why it absolutely is correct to call feminism the gender KKK and to say they're a bunch of fucking supremacists. Because when you let someone just casually, vapidly make a crazy assertion like that, just blanket, what's she going to think going through life? She's always going to think, right, that any man who has more success for her is just entitled and she would have had that, right, had all things been equal. And any man who's less successful than her must have been a fuck up and it must be his fault.
Yeah, I have a horrendous.
She did so well, despite
a much more healthy way of thinking. If you really want to be neutral and really want then you can use think this, right? If somebody's neutral and aren't swayed, you can think this way. Well, the sexes are different, which means that they have different circumstances, and in some aspects you're going to lose out because of your sex, in some aspects you're going to gain because of your sex. I don't think that should be so hard for women to understand because it's like.
Well, yeah, I mean, what they'll do is they'll accept the structure of the Chi chart, but then they'll just downplay all the positives and then ramp up all the negatives. And then
then I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because why not, right? If they do it, then I can do the same thing because we're from the same starting point.
Right. So they could still nominally agree with that, but then they could just fuck around with like matters of degree and difference to maintain this worldview. And like the reason this is it seems like nothing, right? But that's why it's so like insidious, because I would probably guess if you asked like the average Western woman, I'd say probably like 80% of them just casually think this to some degree. And that number should be zero. That number should be zero.
I mean, like casually, either sex are going to have some disadvantages throughout their lives.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. No matter what it is, I don't give a fuck what it is. It shouldn't, whether it's race, orientation, immutable characteristic, A through X, AA, whatever. Like, you shouldn't just have these group-based judgments that say, I automatically persevered through challenges based on these broad group-based trends, right? Because that qualifier, it's not going to survive the passive attitude, right? Because when you're justifying the claim, maybe you are very, very nuanced, right? And you do have a concept of that T chart, and you kind of have thought about quantifying it, and you're like, yeah, like it's apples and oranges and bananas, right? But all things considered, I can still say, yeah, like net positive, net negative, right? And I think that I can see that those can be perfectly fine arguments to kind of hold on a theoretical level. But once it's something you truly believe about your own life in relation to others, once that attitude goes into the subconscious, it's not going to translate with all of that nuance, and you're just going to be a supremacist dick. And this is why feminists are so fucking toxic and odious, because they just casually, part of their mechanic is to create supremacists, is to create people who look down upon other people based on their sex.
No, that's all true. But my point is just to say that, like, every immutable characteristics at one point is going to come with downsides, but it's also important to know that other people with other immutable characteristics than yours have their own issues that you don't necessarily understand, and to act with compassion toward them, because even though you're going through different things, other people are still going through something. And if you can understand that, then I can personally feel, well, because of my immutable characteristics, I have a lot of things against me, which is factually true, and I can demonstrate empirically. But other people would have their own issues that I don't have for their own immutable characteristics. And I'm not going to say that their lives are easier than mine or better than mine, but I'm going to say that I have something that is actually quite bad, and that they don't really understand that, so they can't act as though they do. And the most
I can see that, right? Like, if you are just kind of limiting it to identifying things in your own life, the problem, of course, is if you say, and other people don't experience this, it's like, well,
some other people, not ever, right? Because other people don't experience it, but they experience their own other things that I don't experience.
I mean, okay, so there's specific things that in theory she could make the argument for, right? Particularly if it's like related to part of like men don't have issues related to childbirth, right? Or periods.
Yeah.
So, but of course, there's then the reciprocal men's issues in those realms related to paper abortion, custody, and things like that, right?
Oh, and the right to have kids.
Right. So I can see that part of it, but I guess for me, what I really get at, because let's be very clear, it's pretty obvious that this girl isn't thinking about it in a nuanced way with the way she talks about it.
Yeah,
she's taking away it as a generic, and for her, there's no T-charts, there's no comparisons, there's no question of other immutable character, right? We can just safely assume that's not happening in her head, especially because, as our commentator points out, she's not going to point out any. Yeah, you have no idea, but like this whole clip, like it actually is like it does feel like she has the opportunity to list them, but then just can't, and then just like it trails off, and it's embarrassing.
Well, I could list problems for every demographics I had, and sometimes it might not. Sometimes it's not only like individual problems personally for me, but it's a problem for a group that I happen to like. For a group that's defined by a trait that I have, and because they are so more likely to get certain problems, that means that I am more likely to get that problem. Thus, it is my interest to kind of like watch out for it, as we discussed earlier. And that's the reason why it's important for me to be able to, or say that I have unique problems because of my mutable characteristics that never shows, right? And other people that don't have those traits, they can't say that I don't have problems or that their life is so much worse, because they don't know what it's like to be like I am. They don't know that.
The second part of the issue too has to do, I don't know if it's directly related, but to me it's a pretty interesting coincidence that you had like Du Bois, right, who's called like the father of sociology, right, who kind of created this idea of like, you have like a mythic norm and you have the othering, right, and this idea that if you're kind of in the othered like minority class, he's obviously talking about race, you have a double consciousness, right, because you do have to still interact with the broader culture, but you also kind of have your subculture, and you wear two hats, and because of that, like it is like two different identities. And then based on that, you have the basis of an argument where it's like they understand what it's like to be black, but also they kind of understand whiteness because that's a whole other consciousness, right? Like you can
because that could be a social norm.
Let me finish because I haven't even.
Oh, sorry.
So it's related to the argument. The pieces are in place to make the argument if we're talking about race, right? With gender, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. It's like it's completely retarded, right? Because women don't enter into the male space in that way, and vice versa, right? But what ends up happening is, like this happens all the time, is the feminist movement just co-ops shit from like black movements and from the civil rights movement, and then just makes it where the women are the blacks now. And it's really, really funny because it's all like privileged, rich white women doing this shit, and not even realizing it because they're always in character. So with gender, what they're doing is they think that they know what it's like to be a man because patriarchy, right? So what they're saying is you don't have access to my lived experience as a woman, but I know what yours is. And they use the term
It's absolutely fucking retarded.
Yeah, well, essentially, the implication amounts to they view men and boys as people who do not have lived experience.
Yeah, so we're not really human.
Certainly, they have less, right? She gets to make
because we have extremely difficult lived experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if a man made the same kind of thing, they'd say, "Well, you don't know what it's like to be a woman." You tell her right now, you don't know what it's like to be a man. And like the arguments should hold equal weight. It should be pretty fucking obvious, right? But we all know they don't. And like these glaring contradictions, to me, we're going to add this to our short list of, these are lists of like really, really good beginner men's issues that potentially have a chance of, getting some noggins jogging, right? And it's pointing out draft and conscription is a no-brainer. Tie it to suffrage, right? You voted. Bam. It's a brick wall. You got to answer that question. We have to resolve this. Abortion, where's paper abortion? You've been pro-choice this whole time. The fuck have you been doing, right? That's another one where it's like, bam. It's like, it's a hypocrisy. The size of their position hitting them right in the face. And this one right too. You don't know what it's like to be a woman. You don't know what it's like to be a man.
But I do have
this
to
one
point
cuts
out
right into their supremacist function.
I mean, I do have to point out that I basically, like, I think it's like having the right to have kids, right, and to keep your kids is actually way more important than paper abortion, because whenever that brought up, it's mainly used like in response to what woman is asking for, and men because they already have it so good in that regard that they can ask for that, but men don't really have way more when it comes to parental rights. Like, if we're gonna talk about the right to choose, well, then the right to keep your kids, like after divorce, or to keep your kids when they're born, like used a woman have, and the right to hire a surrogate. All these are rights that men should have, right? And they're way more important than the right to raw dog a woman without consequences. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever we talk about paper abortion, which is a good right, that's secondary important to all the other things. Because if a guy really don't want to have kids ever, he can just wear a condom and get a vasectomy, right? But when it comes to women, just want that abortion thing because they want everything, because they have all the other options. They have all other options, and they just want that thing, right? And men don't have that many options, right? And those options are very important that we have. So whenever we talk about paper abortion above, like the right to keep your kids, the right to surrogacy, right, and right, and the right to get your kids because they're yours, right? Those rights are way more important than paper abortion. But people talk about paper abortion more often because they only because women's issue like abortion, that's just setting the topic.
No, I know exactly. I get exactly what you're saying. And actually, that is a good point. I'll concede that because like I said earlier, I was saying, sometimes people adopt the feminist framework too much, and perhaps leaning too hard into paper abortion is doing exactly that. So yeah, you gave me some food for thought. I'll think about that a little bit. I wonder though, maybe paper abortion slippery slopes into the other ones in a good way.
It could, but a lot of people just stop there. And I think that basically what happened is that we allow the women's rights issue to define the base of the conversation, and then we ask from there. And I don't think that men's rights should be defined out in response to what women want and what women have. It should be response to what men need and what men don't have. That right? Because women, if a woman wants to have kids, she can get a sperm donor. If a woman gets pregnant, she gets to keep the kid. Those are the things that men should have too, right? If a man really wants to raw dog a woman without being a dad, afterwards he can just get a vasectomy. That's not illegal. So of course,
I don't say just get a vasectomy like it's nothing. Okay, like they say, oh yeah, they're all reversible. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not always the case. There's always risks, and it. so I get the point. I just want to emphasize that it's like, oh, just get a vasectomy. It's like,
No, I get that. Of course, it's not something that. But if women have it, but
that happened earlier this year too. Actually, you had a bunch of bitches who were saying this is. I mean, it's not a super new argument, but there was a resurgence of it of saying of advocating for forcing vasectomies on like boys as minors that they have to reverse later.
Yeah, which is absolutely fucking evil and retarded. But then
Of course
we're
it's evil and
allowing
retarded.
their
It's a
sex
feminist
to be
idea. I
in
don't
the
yeah.
conversation.
Like, thankfully, it looks like things haven't gotten so bad that people actually would consider that. There's at least that tiny modicum of respect for men and boys, but again, we shouldn't count on it.
I mean,
Alright,
like
well,
it's all. Then we are basically just being reactionary, just responding to sexism rather than to just
Right.
look at the issues
No,
that
yeah, and
we
I think
need
that's a
to
good
want.
point.
And
I
then they
think that's a
define the
good
conversation over and over again. And then you just get in the trap that they say something, we just react to it, and we be on the defense all the time. When I say every man needs to have the right to keep his kids if he gets a divorce or if he's unmarried to the woman he makes pregnant, right? Especially if she doesn't even want the kids, I might add.
You know,
Right?
and it may be that that's more persuasive too, right? Because if you only
It
frame
is.
it that way with no reference whatsoever to feminism or women's issues, well, then they have no choice but to like be in the position where you're just attacking men, right?
Mhm.
Like, no, all right. Well,
And also like when you basically say this, yeah, I think that the rights that if you're a man that are in a homosexual relationship, or if you're a single man that you should be allowed, then you should also be allowed to have kids because, right?
well,
Like,
because your sexual, there's no logical reason that your sexual orientation would have an impact on your rights under like an equal system.
but it does
You just
under the
hold
law
everyone
because of how the law is written.
standards.
The law says you need
Right.
to be
Yeah, and
single
that's the big bitch that conservatives are on right now is they're like, oh, the gays are growing babies. It's like,
Yeah,
I
that's the
think
reason why I fucking hate those fucking conservative retards because they are female supremacists. They're basically like the feminists, but like without the extra steps.
Well, and also they don't appreciate that there's any difference whatsoever between gay people and like the trans movement.
Yeah,
or
which is
even
like
that there are
not
people who've transitioned or
horrendous.
detransitioned that are also like not at all on board with this, with this progressive movement. And that's squarely where you see all of the most questionable uses of surrogacy. It's essentially like male feminist trannies,
But
who
the
are
only people who
demographic. Like,
I'm like basically like people want to make that like a big deal. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's
well, and also, if it
basically
was such a
just-
big deal, then why the fuck aren't they cracking down on their women, right? Because, like, as much damage and carnage as they think that, like, gay surrogacy is going to do, it's like, where the fuck have you been during the last 100 years of all the carnage? So, it really is that there's just a, like, these trads are, they have Jewish religions. They're Jew, they're Christian, or they're Muslim, and these people have to just hate gays because it's in their gay little books.
Yeah, but that's because they're sexist. They use sexist because
Yeah,
they never say
they don't give
we
a
need
fuck
to make
about
it illegal
lesbians.
for
Yeah,
lesbian couples to have kids.
Yeah, and it is just gynocentric sexism, and that's
Yeah,
why I
that's
say like
all it
the
is.
Jewish religions are gynocentric and they're man hating, and that's the reason that people follow Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. It's a man hating religion, and the only reason people believe in it is because they got indoctrinated as children, and now they're just Pascal's wager people.
Like a lot of the women think, they basically think that them being women supersedes politics. And I think men should think the same way, and we don't, and that's a problem.
It's a fair point.
Like,
All
so
right,
therefore, I
let's-
say, I want
let's-
men's
No, we're gonna
issues
chew up another
and
bit of
women's-
this. We've had enough tangents.
But it's
and
good
I just feel
tangents,
like
though.
I have to work a lot harder to get to the same place. So yeah, I'm all for it. We still need it, definitely.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. It's long overdue in my opinion that we have a set day where we look at women's rights, women's place in the world.
This one is frustrating too because you think maybe it's starting off with a guy being like, oh yeah, I think it's a good idea to have Men's Day. I think it's right, but it's like, oh, he's talking about it's a good idea to have Women's Day, and look at the look that the woman's giving him. I wonder, is she like sizing up his answer to think like, is he gonna give the correct trained answer to serve my needs? Does he know who's really in control here? Like, you better fucking say what I want you to. Anyway, that's a little uncharitable, but the look's there.
Okay, I have something really funny about that issue because, like we said, the Women's Day. I'm like, yeah, I actually like the Women's Day. You know what me and our friend did during Women's Day once? We basically did an entire live stream only watching videos by Magdalene Burns. And you thought it all thought it's because she made so many good points. That's how we celebrated
I'm
it.
surprised you made it out okay. Wow, that's a
Yeah, we did that like for like 3 hours almost, and it was really funny, right? And it's like that's how you celebrate International Women's Day. Like if you're gonna celebrate, that's how you do it. Because
Well,
I was
rest
like,
in peace,
I talked about
Magdalene.
men's
Magdalene
all
was
the
a
day.
fantastic character.
Yeah, I know, I love her. Like that's like the because like to me, because I prioritize men's issues a lot. So that for me, I prioritize all the time. So Women's Day is the only time I prioritize women's issues, and that's how I did it.
And how they've been sort of trampled on over the centuries. Actually, I think if to give you an example, I think if men had children, it would have been sorted out centuries ago. It would, we wouldn't put up with that stuff.
And what would you say are the biggest?
That was
If
an
men
interesting
had
point
children,
too.
men would have
If
rights.
men were the one having children, there'd be no problems. Which that's a
Yeah.
very fun thought
If
experiment. I
men-
make a whole video on if men were the ones who had children.
Here's the thing, if men had children, men would have rights.
Honest, if men had children, oh my god, it'd be the funniest shit ever. They'd be like, having competition, seeing how far they can launch them, right? They'd be like bragging about how many they can squeeze out and how great their bodies still are. They'd be, oh, look at Mike over here. This pussy had to get an epidural. And it'll be like, it wasn't my choice. They made me get it, right? It'd be hysterical.
But not only that, but it's also that like the reason why women have so many more rights and women are treated so much better in society, and also in the past where women were not granted the same amount of freedom in many aspects, is because women can have children. If it was the other way around, then the social position for men would be where women are and vice versa.
Right.
Basically, men
Well,
would just be women and women would just be men. So it's kind of like
that's the thing,
why
right? So
women
how
are
you can't
getting the
complete the
priority.
thought experiment and keep women unless women become men in the thought experiment. So
They become men if you basically, because a man is defined as being a male adult human, right? A male is defined as the sex that produces gametes that can fertilize. A female,
Oh yeah, you could just argue that it would be like literally an identical society. Yeah, like
but
it
I
would
have
just,
something
yeah,
to
it
point
would just
out.
be a change in the terms, right? And
If we
we're
basically do this,
overthinking
right?
it, okay? This guy did
No,
not make
no.
it theory. He's
That's
just
not
being
what
a
I'm doing.
retard.
I didn't finish. Here's basically what I'm thinking, right? It's not just that, but it's also that there is a species of bugs where the male is ejaculating inside himself, and then the woman takes her genital, pointing it into him, and then sucking out the semen so she can have it. I guess that's not a good analogy, but my point is that even if the genitals were reversed, the pregnancy process would not be. You get it?
Yeah, the bug thing doesn't match on, but that's okay.
Issues facing women in the UK at the moment? I think, I mean, I can't speak for like all industries, but particularly in insurance, one thing I found is it's hard to get your foot in the door in certain, like there's a lot of golf days and things like that we're just not invited to. And it's not necessarily deliberate exclusion. It's sort of perhaps because of the perceived we don't play golf, or you're kind of not getting as much exposure to certain clients when it's not necessarily that you're any worse at your job. It's more that just because you don't do a certain activity that's more aligned with men, you therefore don't get as much face time and get opportunities to build relationships with the clients that you should. And then when you are in environments like meetings with your male colleagues and they have all this rapport that you haven't been able to build, you slightly feel like you're on an unfair playing field.
I guess like
So
You know
okay,
why that is?
okay, you can go first.
Yeah, that is because men are terrified of being alone with women in the workforce because they can just blackmail them into because of false accusations, which the media and the corporation will take at face value, and then he can lose his job. So that's the reason why men don't socialize with women in the workforce more than they have to a lot of the times.
Well, but she's talking about like people outside of. I mean, yeah, you
Especially
could be
outside.
saying
What
that
would you want to
her
risk
colleagues
that?
won't invite
honestly?
her along for that reason, right? But then let's look at it another way. Why doesn't she just invite the clients to golf herself, right? Or to something else, right? Like the way it's constructed, right, is first of all, I mean, for starters, the men are going out and spending the time to do these activities and to schmooze with the clients in that way. Is she doing something else during her hours that they're doing that? Is she doing something else? Is there anything else she could be doing that's relevant to her position? Like, she doesn't have the social skills or like the ability to problem solve enough to like think of anything interesting. I mean, the fact that even the fact that they're meeting her for the first time there, I mean, that could be all the more reason to maybe play that angle. Like you're kind of the new exciting member that they're meeting now or whatever. Depending on the situation, there's all kinds of different ways that you could play around with this situation and work it to your advantage. And honestly, I'm sure she does. And I'm sure it's all fucking invisible to her, right? So like part of it is too, if, let's say if you're in anything kind of salesy, right? Like imagine having that kind of an attitude. Like I can tell this woman, she's not, she could never do sales. Like whatever insurance she's in, it's probably like very, very like structured and kind of set up, you know, like he could just make more phone calls and have just as much of a rapport, you know? But yeah, I think you can see just the learned helplessness in it because she seems to be very, very aware of this problem and she can explain the ins and outs of it and she knows where it starts and where the impact is and she's there and it's affecting her. But, you know, she's just cowering. Like she imagines somehow that there's going to be a social policy or change that's going to prevent her coworkers from playing golf with clients, right? Like there's not much. She hasn't thought about a solution because it's all about the problem, it appears, right? The other funny thing too is you could tell she stalled for time to try to think of an issue by being like, well, I can't speak for all women, as in like, well, whatever I'm going to think of, don't judge me if it's not very good or doesn't apply to many people. And that's all she can think of. And how incredibly fucking privileged is that too? Like, that kind of office job like that, like she's fucking fine with her fucking Burberry scarf. Like what a cunt.
But that was what I was thinking. I was thinking that, well, she sees when she's missing out, but not when she's gaining, because privilege is invisible to those who have it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if feminists actually realized that was just a fucking projection.
Yeah, if they were actually consistent, yeah, that would be lovely.
We have her again, yeah, because earlier I thought she's totally going to not be able to explain the reasons, and I think this is where we continue to see her flounder, I hope.
Like, just social dynamics in the office, having managers who can't really relate to you, having like harassment, like it's still rife, to be honest.
She listed 3 things that are basically the same thing, and it's all just like generic shit that she just got off like Tumblr or whatever, just like talking points she heard on the internet. Like you could just fucking tell it's totally learned helplessness, and like you can tell on her facial expression, right? It's like she's not like remembering things and how anguished it was. You know, she's got like the smiling eyes. It's like she knows that it's a little bit Dubers, right? She knows she's getting away with something. She feels like silly that she's like in this position where she gets to make these like ludicrous, retarded fucking complaints. But oh, here we are. Oh, okay. Oh, it's my birthday again. Oh, I love having 3 birthdays a year. All right, let's see if we get more meat.
And I know a lot of like younger girls who are in uni trying to get into engineering, and I want to encourage them, but I'm also like, I want to warn them, like it's not all fun and games. So we've made a lot of progress, but there's a long way to go.
When I got my first job in UK, people that will be older than me, and they normally will be men, they will feel like I would get my position because the boss liked me, not because I was smart, not because I was young and I had good ideas, just because I was pretty. They will just assume that was the reason.
Which that was a humble brag. She's totally trying to put a humble brag. She's like, oh, everybody just says that I could never possibly be here because it has to be because I'm so pretty, right? But then it's like, let's take this issue seriously for half a second. Why the fuck would anyone think that if we didn't have affirmative action, right? This is literally a direct consequence of having affirmative action. This is something people point out. They're like, well, if you do all this affirmative action, then people are just going to assume that that's why you got the job, right? Like, and then it's like, now that's another issue to double down. It's a constant feedback loop, right? You get affirmative action because you're oppressed, and then that causes the oppression, but there's no link between what caused the problem and not, because we don't care about that, right? like just within affirmative action, it creates like a one-step infinite feedback loop of infinite fucking entitlement and just harm to the economy. But like she doesn't notice because she's trying to sneak in the humble brag. It's like, and it's that stupid. I just want to die. Okay, let's continue.
I got it.
I mean, I have seen a bit of change, but I work in construction. And when I first started, I came across some real horrible.
Do you want to guess what kind of construction she works in? Do you want to guess where in construction she works in? I'm sure she's wearing the hard hat. I'm sure she's filling the ditches. I'm sure she's building the bridges.
Attitudes to women. I mean, I got told by one manager that came into me.
Like, the bitch works in construction. She's in a call center. Like, I promise you. I'd love to be correct. I don't know. Maybe she seems a little butchy. Maybe, I mean, she could probably beat me in an arm wrestling contest. But I'm not pretending to be in construction either.
That I ran an office at the time, and I got told that I couldn't run an office because
She
I was
ran an
cleaning or his secretary.
I think it's in every day, just in like how women are treated, like on the tube or at work, and it's the kind of level that you can't really pick up on. And if you do pick up on it to like your male colleague, they'll just look at you like you're picking a fight for no reason. I think they're the biggest struggles. Obviously, there's much bigger struggles, but
Her number one struggle is that there's things that happen, but they're so small that she can't explicate them. I mean, what it is she hasn't decided if the guy's cute or not yet, right? So, it's just the way women are treated. And again, we go back to, do you know what it's like to be a man and be treated day to day? Like anything in your brain ever do that empathy thing at all? Or is there nothing going on upstairs, right? Also, this woman looks like exactly like a live action version of the pumpkin spice white chick from the Meat Canyon cartoon. Bring me pumpkin!
Okay, that was hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the subtle harassment, or like the subtle comments that if you pick up on, then you're like the annoying person to work with, and like you make complaints and everything. When in reality, like we should be able to say if we're uncomfortable about something.
So then what about this though? Like, oh, they're making other people uncomfortable who are complaining about them, but then, well, what about me being uncomfortable, right? Like, it's totally solipsistic. It's definitely like, when the fuck are these women going to stop and think about how other people are treated in small ways? When are they going to, look at other people's problems down to the level of the fucking microaggression? When are they going to stop and think that, oh, like maybe these complaints from other people that I've just been dismissing, it's hypocritical for me to be pissed off about my bullshit getting dismissed, right? Like, I think it's really clear that this comes from a position of supremacy, and it's invisible supremacy. So, they're to them, if they're not acting like the aristocratic class that they know they are, then
they are kind of acting like it, though.
Huh?
They're kind of acting like it. I'm important. I deserve special treatment. I'm so good. I deserve the best. I am above everybody.
Oh, yeah. If one of these bitches gets catcalled, I promise you, it's the highlight of her week. Like, I'm sorry.
I think the lack of women in like senior roles, so especially in the industry that I'm in, there's a lack of seniority. So you don't really have a chance to look up to people and kind of see that progression happening. So if we get women in senior roles, that might promote them to actually aspire for those careers and eventually.
Right. So
how would you do that? I just want to know how specifically you would do that. Because if there's no discrimination, then they can just go there if they wanted to.
Well, you just here's the one move checkmate for this soy bastard. Have you ever looked up to a woman? Have you ever seen a woman who's competent and in a position of authority and thought, hey, she's kind of badass. I want to be more like her. Like, I've had that experience. I've seen badass women, and I've been like, hey, that was fucking cool. Like, I want to do that thing that they did, like that efficient, fast way they just did it, Like, I mean, it tends to be women who maybe are a little high in testosterone, right? Maybe it tends to be more masculine aligned women who would be the ones in that position.
Yeah, he doesn't really have much in common with
ask this guy, right? Have you ever like, can you name any women who are like awesome, like influences or leaders or like really cool people to look up to? And if he says no, right? I mean, that's already kind of like, how egalitarian are you? But if he says yes, then it's like, okay, well then why can't women just look up to the male role, right? And it's the same as like when people talk about representation in media, right? Like this creepy idea that you have to see yourself in something in order to relate to it. Very creepy,
not just
very
that.
weird.
When it comes to representation, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, I would say. Because if representation about certain groups of people, and that representation is like almost always universally stereotypical or negative, then you kind of have a problem with representation.
Yeah, right. It can swing both ways.
Like
Yeah,
there's
like
a lot of times, a lot of groups of people that are never represented, almost never represented in a positive light in movies and cinema or like in TV. And if you basically see a trait that you have, right? You never see it like on movie TV, that's fine. But whenever you not it, well, it's kind of annoying if you never ever see it at all ever. But then if you like only see it and it's only viewed like like in a very negative light, it's almost like, oh, that is like such a horrible thing to be, and that's so terrible, and all those people are either bad or their life always suck, and that's like the only thing you see about your trait, your immutable characteristic on media, then that kind of sucks. If I were to be completely honest, that kind of blows. And yeah, I do think there are like at least some issues going on with
Yeah, I guess I
that.
wonder though. I mean, because I think it makes sense to say that a negative depiction has more impact than a positive depiction, right? Because I feel like with a negative depiction, particularly for something that's like not even a character, right? It's just like something bad or whatever that's just like thrown in a way, and it's like a clearly like negative stereotype or whatever, right? Then clearly like just the impact is it's like, oh, all we know is that it's associated with that group and that we've just made it look negative. Whereas if you have like a positive character or a positive role model, well, they're probably like the protagonist, which means they're quite individuated, which means that we're following like an individual character's story. And at that point, the impact of like whatever that character's characteristics are, it starts to matter less, which is why it's like it's easy enough for us to imagine gender or race flipped versions of superheroes and stuff, because those factors for a lot of those characters tend to not seem very important, right? So I wonder if that's part of it. Like, I don't know, like if you had like a protagonist that is really positive but has negative, I don't know. I guess it's I don't know what to
No, a
make
good character should have
I think
negative
media
traits,
representation doesn't
but
make
like,
an
but
impact.
my point is mainly like if there's one demographic of people and that demographic of people is always portrayed in like a very negative way, either that their life
Is there
always
any like good
sucks,
example
or
of
that they are
that?
like
Like,
bad people.
like who is always portrayed as I guess Nazis?
No, nobody is always portrayed negatively, fortunately, but some groups of people are very often portrayed in a way more negative light than it's actually justified. Like it's a disproportionate that people can see. And if you basically see that trait that you have, right, and it's only see it when it's portrayed in a very negative light in media, and that's like, oh, the finalist, I saw someone else with that trait in media, and that was portrayed in a horrible way, and then you basically, yeah, that kind of, if that's like a huge proportion of the portrayal, then that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough.
Or
to be clear though, that's not what's happening to women. Not even.
No, it's not happening to women. It's happening to a lot of. It doesn't happen to women like the group sex women. No, it's not happening to them. But it's happening to a myriad of different groups of people. Some of them might also be women, but that's not the identity that I'm talking about. You know.
Right.
And since
You know,
and I do
probably
think that is kind of important to bring up. But yeah, but that's just like in media and stuff like that. It's not like because he's talking about real life. It's not about that. Like because then, like if the media representation is like worse than like real life, then that's kind of weird because it tends to be the other way around, and that's kind of like a rule of thumb that you can use to explain if a representation of a group of people is negative, if the representation is more negative than the actual position in life in general.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good. I mean, and I guess ideally you'd want representation to be more or less accurate, right? It's kind of just if it's too far to an extreme, kind of like anything outside of the golden mean, right? Also, shout out to Thurg in the chat here. I don't believe I've seen you in here before, but the name's vaguely familiar. I suppose it's been
I linked
stream, so forgive me if I forgot, but welcome to the stream. Yeah. All right, let's bite off some more of this. So I'm sorry, did this guy say he was in HR? Is that where that came from in the chat? I missed it if he said that.
I don't think he is, no.
he'd probably be a really great HR guy. He seems like a really nice guy, you know. But
You almost a fool.
unfortunately, he is you know, mistaken.
Get into those careers, yeah.
Well, I'm a professor of economics, and so I can see that there's a lot of financial issues, that women are definitely not paid as much as men for doing the same work. Quality of
She's an economics professor that believes in the pay gap. She's an economics professor that believes in the pay. She's a professor and she believes in the pay gap. As a professor that believes in the pay gap, believing in the pay gap while being a professor at the same fucking time. That should be illegal.
No, it should be. But basically, like
someone
what
does
I
this
find
woman
clip-
immediately. Where is she?
Wait,
Where is
I need to find a clip. I remember a clip. Oh, here's the clip. I have it. I have it in my mind. The pay gap is mainly the average salary of men and women working full time. It does not account for different hours, different job positions, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job.
Yeah,
There's
right,
nothing to do
yeah.
with discrimination.
Yeah, does Shu just sell that as merch, or did she just make one for herself? That should have been.
I don't know. It's just a video.
Frankly, I would even buy one like now. It would be cool to have one. I wouldn't want to buy
It's
one.
so funny.
She still needs to apologize to Ami Zoa. I did not forget. He's probably forgotten by now, but I am fucking petty.
a lot of financial issues, that women are definitely not paid as much as men for doing the same work.
Quality of pay, I would say, and rights.
Yes, I think the glass ceiling that certainly exists. You know, the more women that get through that, I think the better. Quite frankly, the more women.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but there's a few women who maybe belong through a glass ceiling, literally. You know, the Ghislaine Maxwells of the world, who are getting a free pass for their crimes. You know, we can throw those women physically through a glass ceiling, maybe, but I don't know. No, there's no glass ceiling. It's not a thing. And of course, you have the glass cellar, is the reciprocal men's issue, if you haven't heard of that one. I know that you have, obviously.
I just want to show you the video. Can you share my screen?
Wait, what video?
Oh, I posted in it's in here.
Wait, the Maglin Barnes stream?
No, that one.
I was gonna say, I don't think we have time for.
No, but look in the chat here. Like, not in the chat. It's like in the StreamYards.
Oh, in the StreamYard chat.
Yeah, that's the one.
The secret chat. All right, what's your secret video? What? Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can watch it.
Okay.
The wage gap is simply the average earnings of men and women working full-time. It does not count for different job positions, hours worked, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job. It has nothing to do with discrimination.
Yep.
That's
timeless. Timeless classic.
Too perfect.
Yeah. It's fucking sucks, like, how little things change and how much, like, the exact same arguments are still perfectly valid, and it just doesn't matter if you're right. But
I think they put in charge of things, the world would be a far better place, in my view anyway. We wouldn't have as many wars.
I think childcare is a huge barrier to a lot of women. And I think we've got a long way to come in catching up with some other countries on that. Just the help they put into women, we are becoming more flexible in the workplace, but we need to be flexible with women, particularly when they've just had babies, just coming back to work.
Safety.
All right, that was it. So she rambled for a while talking about the overall subject, and then we got exactly one example, which is, it's hard if you have a baby and we need to be more flexible, right? Which capitalism already solves this problem. Yeah, and this goes into your fucking pay gap. Ever tried to run a business? It kind of matters if people can, like, show up and work or not. That's kind of like a zero multiplier, right? If you're not there to do the work, right? And, like,
and also
to
giving
be honest
men
about your limitations or your other obligations is just fucking retarded,
Oh,
right?
and
And you're
also
responsible.
if you give the men the same abilities to have kids and the same rights to keep their kids, then probably that problem would kind of be solved. Like, because women are more able to get to make babies, legally speaking, more allowed to have kids legally, right? And more legally allowed to keep their kids, right? Even if they are single, if they're divorced, right? Even if they're lesbian, all of those things doesn't matter. As long as you're a woman, you can have kids. There are way more women have kids than men, right? And way more women get to stay home with kids because way more women have kids, right? And that's a huge like advantage. And she basically said, "Oh, that means that they might not get hired as much because they need to, and it's harder for them to balance work." And that's like saying that, well, I have so much money, it's hard to know where to invest it. Yeah, but it's still better than not having the money.
Right, exactly.
Like, what the fuck? Like, you're arguing from a point of privilege.
It's a classic case of snatching oppression from the jaws of privilege. You know, you got a T-chart, but oh wait, I'm a supremacist, so I get to only look at the negative side. You know, and it's like a cheat code.
Safety is a big priority in London. I think that should be really sort of prioritized.
I'd say safety is a big issue. Being like catcalled and
Okay.
things. There's more signs now on the streets.
That's something about public safety.
trying
We
to,
do.
you know,
That's
stop
how we
it.
fix public safety.
Wait. Are there
Well, I
signs
need
in
to go
fucking
first.
streets to say not to catcall women? Is that seriously a thing?
No, that's not. No, it's not a thing. But here's basically what she said. She said
Is that a
about
thing
public
in
safety.
fucking Britbong land and fucking...
Okay. No, but fuck that's not the main issue that she said. Here's the main issue, right? It talked about public safety. Okay. You want to know what would actually make sure that women, in particular, had more public safety? If they could have guns, and if we have less immigration, right?
Also, if we desegregated all the bathrooms.
Exactly right. And if you but here's the thing: when it comes to having a lot of immigration, when it comes to banning guns, when it comes to segregating bathrooms, right? Women are in favor of all those things way more than men are. So the only reason why they don't have the same amount of public safety is because of how they vote. And if only men voted, they would have more public safety.
Well, yeah, and then
But that's
of course,
actually true. I'm not saying that only
the
men
thing
should vote.
is not all, like they make everyone less safe, and it's men who are going to be unsafe first, right?
Right, exactly. And mainly
And then,
because
of course,
women.
she talks about on women say, "Oh, it's really great to make things safer," and it's like,
Why do they keep voting
percent of all
against
the
it?
homicides are male, which is, I think, a very, very low under. I'm pretty. It's got to be over 90%. It's like 90. I think it's 99% in most countries. I haven't looked at the numbers in a long time.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
it was
also
like Iceland had
just-
literally one woman who got murdered, so then they were like the most egalitarian. Anyway,
And saying it's a criminal offence now. But I feel like you still get it, and people need to be educated on that a bit more.
Well, I think men and transgender women as well in hospitals and changing rooms, and you know where they think that they want to be women, and you know sometimes they're still men with their men bits.
see, and this woman right here. Here's your trad woman. This is the number one issue for trad women. Is
Oh,
that
and radical feminists, because they seem to agree somehow.
Oh, and the TERFs,
Not
sure,
quite
sure, yeah,
yellow.
yeah. TERFs and trads. This is when you get your trad waifu, right? Who stays at home and produces children. She's a proud stay-at-home wife. She thinks that feminism went too far because it devalues the mother, right? You know, but of course she wants to vote and she doesn't care about anything else, right?
Yeah, but like
Number
the
one
reason
issue
why
is
we
she's
have
afraid
all
that a dude in a dress is gonna beat her up in a bathroom.
But do you know why there's so many dudes in
Privilege.
dresses running around in bathrooms? Do you know why that is?
Sorry, what?
That is the only reason why there's so many dudes in dresses running around in bathrooms and being bitches.
Well,
is
yeah, because they want to get female privilege because they're not getting treated well.
Exactly, and also because all the
Yeah.
trannies were voted in for by women all the time. They supported way more than men for
Well, not
40
this one.
over. Yeah, until it became.
She
slightly
voted for
convenient.
Trump. She's different. She's a NAWAL.
Right, like because like voting for Democrats every election until this one you vote for Trump. That's like they make it so
Yeah,
different, right?
There's your NAWAL, trad boys. There's your NAWAL. but here's the thing that fucking pisses me off about traditionalist women. Approximately 0% of them are FEMRAs or MRAs on grounds that they give a shit about their husbands or their sons or their fathers or their brothers or their uncles, right? Or any of their male friends. Like,
yeah.
They're strictly like the worst kind of anti-feminist in that it's just pure anti-feminism without ever linking it to anything constructive. Namely, You link it back to the MRM, okay? I'm sorry that answer isn't very satisfying to a lot of people. I'm sorry the MRM is like too wholesome and cringe or whatever. I'm sorry that it's a little bit gay to like be cosy and to just say, hey, this is actually important. It should get taken seriously, right? I'm sorry that's not the funniest, most like dramatic thing. But yeah, that's kind of the answer, right? You link up your anti-feminism to the MRM, and it's a whole wild west of what to do from there. And why the fuck aren't traditionalist women doing it? How come traditionalist women have never done it? That's my big question, and I don't fucking understand it. I don't understand why we respect trad women. I have more respect for TERFs. I have more respect for progressive. I have more respect for the coffee shop feminist than the fucking trad woman who is not a femra and not an anti-feminist.
At least the coffee shop feminists would agree with me, like on a like purely like I guess like purely like rhetorical point. When I bet like, yeah, I want equality for men and women too, and I think that men it should also be taken into account. It's not that the coffee shop feminists are gonna say no, that blah blah. They're just gonna say, oh yeah, you're probably right, but then they just don't know what to do. Like.
I mean, at least getting the nominal support is
that's
more than you usually get out of them. But
when it comes to like we can add tell like like if I ask someone like, well, do you think that gay men should also be allowed to be parents, biological? Then a lot of women will say, yeah, of course, it's super nice, it's super loving and all that, and they will be right about that, right? But then the trad ones can be like, no, it needs to be a man and woman because I don't want any man to have my privilege because I am special because I am
trad women are the biggest
you
fucking
never be in my
homophobes
level because you're beneath.
And yeah,
That's
they're
what
the
all
biggest
trad women say.
homophobes because they're protecting their privilege and their entitlement. They viscerally see gay men as a threat and as taking something which is entitled to them, right? And that's all it is. It's just nastiness, right? Like traditionalist women are really fucking nasty people. they have a really disgusting worldview, right? Because typically they're religious, right? So like they're fine with their God just condoning a bunch of genocide and like horrific abuse of children and infanticide and shit. Oh, but that was just to other people, and then like God decided to change the rules later because I believe in objective truth and not moral relativism. Because like, God radically changes from demanding genocide to condemning murder.
But like
it's not the women getting genocide. So trad women are perfectly comfortable just like watching societies rise and fall and people getting slaughtered and genocided, people come and not them, right? And that's all fine. And then you ask them questions like, hey, should this group get genocided? And they're like, oh, let me think about it, right? Because they just have no fucking principles. I'm sorry, but I can't fucking stand trad women. Man up, women.
But neither do I, because what they're actually just doing, all the trad women, is that they're like they are like very, very like sexist, and we should just be allowed to explain that. Like they basically say, I was born female, and a man should never have the same like opportunities as mine because it's my entitled role, and I should just have it for myself. And men shouldn't be in it. They say that all the time. They don't.
You're not even paraphrasing. You're barely even paraphrasing. Like they literally will say that, and like there's not a single piece of their body and soul and self and history that like resists that and says, "Wait a minute, you're being a cunt right now? Like wait a minute, you're being a supremacist douche." Wait a minute, if you apply the golden rule even once in your fucking life, you'd realize that this structure can't fucking maintain itself in your brain. But no, like, why would they think that? Like, what's the point of doing more thinking when already you've been given, like, the special privilege treatment, right? All they can do by thinking is by realizing, like, their privileges aren't valid, right? So there's a disincentive for them to be honest, which makes sense. Like they're going to fit right into the religious delusion, and they're going to be just a trad wife, just like overgrown retarded children, cradle to grave. So I guess if Esther Wheeler counts as, no, she doesn't count as trad. She's like anti-trad. That's the thing is like Esther Wheeler is like the best example of a woman, right? She's amazing. And it's like, and like what is her philosophy culminated? It's like a scathing indictment of traditionalism that says if women were gonna be good people, like they'd abolish slavery. Like that's what we're waiting for, you know.
But something I'm seeing when it comes to both like the trad women and many of the like feminists, not all feminists actually, that's actually less common, but okay, some of the feminists, right, is that they basically say that regardless of like, they both agree that if you're a gay guy, then you're bad and you should not have kids because women are needed somehow. That's when they agree, and they will like agree like hardly on that. They say they're different, but they're like very much the same.
I can't wait to see them make that argument post artificial uteri. Then I get to sit there and be smug.
Well, they're gonna make it
usual.
And I don't think you're safe.
Like she's kind of right though.
A problem as yet, but I would be fearful if I came across an obviously man dressed as a woman in the changing area.
See, I've never experienced this, but I would be fearful. Just to be clear, it's a theoretical.
Or anything, it's personal for women. And toilets, I think you should have your own space.
How often would you say you encounter these problems?
Well, I don't really too often, to be fair.
I still think a lot of men have outdated attitudes towards women and what they can do, and where they fit in society, and that really needs to change.
Well, what I said really is problems with men.
Wait, did she say men's attitudes about where women fit in society need to change? I think that's what she said.
Of men have outdated attitudes towards women and what they can do, and where they fit in society, and that really needs to change.
Well, what I said.
Yeah, so of course, she doesn't have any power.
Women have way more wiggle.
She doesn't have anything. It's because a man denied it to her.
But women have way more wiggle room and choice opportunities than men have in this society.
Shut up. No, they don't.
Yes,
she
they
wants
do.
more, and it's the men stopping her because of their outdated ideas about how women can do anything. Also, this one's the cuddly kitty. Oh, he can just cuddle all day. He just purring like the Shroud of Turin, if the Shroud of Turin were a cat. Hey, Elder, do you want to show them the trick you can do? How I trade you to Nose Boop?
We are really taking our time with this video.
Yeah, sorry, the cat distracted me. But this little guy, oh goodness, he just needs his cuddles every day. I thought I had a cat. He is a little ham. He's a little piggy. Anyway, let's go.
There's really problems with men, transvestites, dressing in the wrong rooms.
And attacks on stations and things like that.
Of course, they have nothing to say for the fact that feminists fought for female reporters to have the right to go into the locker rooms of sports members, even when the men are like, actually, no, we don't want female reporters like interviewing us in the changing room. And
but well, it's only a dangerous principle. Have fucking principles, really. Like, why can't you have principles?
I don't know how hard it would have been to have fucking principles, but no, fuck that. Not when vagina's involved. That female reporter, because she's gonna lose opportunities if she's not allowed to violate men's spaces, and her opportunities are more important than this issue, which this woman here apparently only fucking thing she can think of is.
Yeah, but then Leah Thomas shouldn't be a problem for women, right?
Sorry, what?
But then Leah Thomas shouldn't be a problem for women, right?
But then what would be a problem for women?
But then all the trannies in like the fucking women's locker rooms is not a problem either.
Well, it's not a problem. It's like made up. Like,
well, I mean, like both, like the locker room for like if men go.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. This goes back to This goes back to what you were saying about paper abortion, and that it's like an example of stepping into the feminist framework, right? Like if we were to advocate in a. But actually, that was a legitimate controversy that came up, and that's how it was resolved. So it's important to realize that, like, it's as though we had a big paper abortion debate that was rejected, right? So it is important to mention.
Right, but like at least, but that is actually kind of different because then like the issue that female report in locker rooms, that's actually way worse than having trans women in female locker rooms because that's like otherwise it's like a male who, if a male presents as completely as female and goes in, the woman don't even notice that that's a male. That's much less of a problem than if like a female reporter say, "I'm a woman." He's gonna go in there and steam in your shower.
Right.
That's kind of like worse.
A female reporter never belongs there, but like a trans woman, especially one who passes quite well, right, or at least passively, as well as this bitch, right? Then yeah, like they have as much business in there as anyone else. It's just if they're gonna be weird and they're gonna pull some shit like oh, who's my hero? Oh, the name escapes me. The tranny who pulled the taser on Blair White.
Oh, Jessie Yaniv.
Yeah, Jessica Yaniv, right? If
I remember
you're
you
using it
said.
up, right? Asking
I
people
remember.
for tampons and shit and like being a weirdo. Yeah, sure. But at that point,
Yeah,
the
that's the
problem
problem.
isn't that they're in the bathroom. It's like it would be like goofy for almost anyone to do it in that way. Even like a biological woman acting like that would probably be weird, right? It's like it's like the best examples you have is like when people are doing behaviors that are like no one could do them. It's not an essential thing. And it's also like you've probably been pissing with trannies all your life without knowing it, at least a few times. Like it's not.
And not just that, like when it comes to trans men in male spaces, that's apparently never a problem, but the other way is a problem.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. No, that doesn't even. That's not even on the radar.
Right. But
That's too
those are like
advanced.
equal. The
That's
problem
way
when
too
women,
advanced.
when
No.
actually women presenting women with reporters going to the male locker room against their will, that's actually a way worse problem than both of these things.
But okay, but that's actually worth highlighting here too, right? So not only are they hypocrites on the whole gendered spaces issue for not even realizing the reciprocal men's issue in regards to women accessing men's spaces in like news reporting and sports and shit, right? But then also just the more glaring obvious one, right, is they don't give a shit about, these weird degenerate transsexuals where just, I don't want them pissing next to my wife and daughter, so we'll just send them to be with the men and all the little boys, right? It's like
but all the trans from female to male, they go into the male pay, and that's apparently never a problem.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know why they imagine that's better. I mean, I do know why. It's because they don't have empathy and compassion and care.
We definitely know why they think so.
We
But
know
I
why.
have a really interesting story about this. This is very interesting. When I
Wait,
went to
wait. Sorry about bathrooms?
Yeah, about this specific hypocrisy that I've actually witnessed this in real life. Okay. It was like when I went to middle school, a lot of the time there was like some chicks. They just went to the boys' locker room because they had a problem with some guys and just wanted to talk to them, and just went in there like without no consequences. And several times we had like women just like looking like this, the girls, and just like running through it, right? Just like because they like
Like a
because it was
joke,
fun, right?
Yeah, okay. That's
Right. But then you know what happened later? There was like one boy who several girls like basically goaded into following them into locker room, right? And he put like a bandage like over his like head so he wouldn't see anything. Well, and then he went into the bathroom, right? And the other girls like that wanted him to be there, they were like, "You need to go," and he was like, "No, I don't really want to," right? And then some like other she was like, "Well, stop! You just like making fun of me. That's not cool, right?" And he's like, considered, "Okay, I do it just because you want to, right?" So he went in and he went into like the bathroom and he locked himself in and said, "I don't want to come up unless all the girls are dressed, right?" And then almost all the girls were dressed, and he got out of there, and he was dressed too. And then he was like out of the locker room, right? And that became a huge problem. And the teacher was like, "How was it when the boy went into your locker room? How was that for you?" And then this chick, she was like very like good, and she was like honest, like, "I don't care about it. Didn't make me feel anything. They were just making fun of him, right? Because yeah, she was just being consistent." And then they told this other boy like, "Well, some girls didn't like you to be there, and they felt bad." I'm like, they didn't tell him it. Yeah, but they might have felt it anyway. I'm like, and then that boy, he was like pushed into it, right? And the other girls, and then by girls, and then he was the problem, right? But when other girls just go into the other locker rooms by their own admissions and weren't goaded into doing it, then that's not a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and that's so typical of like school teachers and admin is they're just a bunch of sexist bigots like all the way down, and like they're really childish and fucking stupid. Like it's the same as with like school dress policies, right? Where the girls will argue that the dress code is too strict on girls because it limits what clothing they can wear, even though the boys aren't allowed to wear anything that these girls are bitching about, and it would be a way bigger issue if they did. Right, so the boys already have a more constrained dress code just naturally. That's just a given, right? It doesn't you don't even need to put it in the dress code. It's already true. But then
it actually works.
Well, no, what I was just gonna say, then the justification, what they say is it's bullshit that the way we're being told to dress is something that the boys just can't handle. these boys are perverts and they're staring at us, and that shouldn't be the reason that I'm not allowed to wear this. And the fucking teachers and the admin will echo that same sentiment. They'll accuse point blank all the boys of just being a bunch of like lecherous creeps, and that's why they have to have the rule. And it's like their own gay little rule, and then they immediately out the gate just like preemptively slander boys as like a bunch of perverts. And like these are children. These are fucking children in like elementary and middle school that they do this.
You know what? They were choosing the dress code for girls, but this actually even gets worse, because in many of these countries, like that, they have the girls can wear like skirts, and the boys need to wear like these thick long pants all years, right? And then like you have these examples of like some boys basically collapsing due to heat strokes because of the dress codes, and the girls doesn't affected by it at all. And then like they say, no, you need to wear these really thick long pants when it's like 35 degrees out, and you cannot wear anything else. And then the girls are there with their skirt, and they don't sweat at all, right? If you didn't know about that.
And it goes all the way into adulthood. Like you have I forgot what feminist it was who was like mocking the way a suit was, and how like a tie is like, you know, like they're being suffocated and everything. And she was doing it in a way to like mock men, but it's like, well, men are wearing this to be competitive and to be productive and accepted in society. Like it's a reflection of them conforming to a very rigid gender role. And, you know, the entire fucking narrative, the entire point was supposed to be like, oh, we don't like it when society coerces or manipulates people into gender expressions that maybe they're not comfortable with. Well, I don't know. Like, probably a lot of men aren't very comfortable like wearing a fucking three-piece suit all the time. They're not very comfortable.
I actually have a very good point about that, if I may.
No, we got to get further in this video.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Let's get a couple more minutes into this.
Like that on the trains. I think women are more vulnerable now than when I was younger.
You walk out on your own.
I felt safe. I used to come home 12 o'clock at night and feel safe walking the streets. I wouldn't now.
How does that make you feel?
She's statistically, oh, maybe not. No, I guess we're in Britain, so maybe she might get stabbed by a Muslim. I guess that's fair. I'll give her a whatever.
Upset, and because it wouldn't happen if you would be a man. That's the issue, and it happens.
So once again, you know, she's a supremacist. She doesn't know or have access to the male experience, but she feels entitled to simply making that assumption.
Happens to me because I'm a Spanish teacher, and some of my students who are male, they will come to me and call me, "Hey, beauty," but I'm their teacher, so you wouldn't call your teacher beauty or sweet.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Imagine like having such a nice life that one of the biggest issue that
Someone
you
said
get out when you're
a
being
term of
given
endearment.
Boys call me beauty. I'm like, yeah, that sounds terrible. What a
Well,
nice.
also, like if she's teaching kids that are in like middle school or even high school, I mean, you kind of expect that people are working out like their social awkwardness, right? Like that would be one to say like not appropriate, like I'm your señorita or whatever. Not señorita. What's the word for teacher in Spanish?
I did this in Britain. I think the
No, but she's a
teacher-
Spanish teacher. How do you say teacher? I forgot.
I mean, like,
Because I only know Chinese now. After I started learning Chinese, it just washed over. And Laosu.
I know like man means basically senora.
Did we always just say senor and senora? Maybe that's why I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes
Man,
sense.
maybe
Like,
my
that's what I
Spanish
would
is
assume. You
shit.
said. Like senora, senor.
I'm senora. Get a big FA if you call me bebe again, whatever. Like right? And it's like, what is she like threatened? Does she feel like she's being undermined, right? Like she needs to get more respect from them in order to do her job well. Like I gotta tell you, like if you're like those students are probably not very difficult to control. Like they're probably very nice to her. They probably like if she says, "Hey, sit down. Hey, be quiet. Hey, we're doing this right now." They probably comply. I imagine, right? Like she has no fucking idea.
Or sweetheart or stuff like that. So it's upsetting that we are in 2024 now, and we are.
I love this. So every time she says something is upsetting, it always has to do with someone calling her pretty, and then she just smiles like this. Like,
But remember, it even happens in the 10th current year.
I think she's cute. Like, I think she's, you know.
That's why they keep saying that she is, of course.
Yeah, I think she'd, I'll bet she'd be a really nice teacher to have. She seems like really cute and like really sweet, and maybe she's not very sure of herself, and that's why she buys into these religion arguments. And she likes kind of being in that like tee-hee-hee, like kind of mousy position where she's just this cute little mouse or whatever. You can tell she's leaning into the character and bitching about it on Women's Day and saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if the men just moved society for me because I'm so pretty?" Tee-hee-hee.
Bro.
I see you, bitch. I see you.
Still have to have this kind of behavior, I would say.
It's like it's a bit of a losing battle, and it's almost.
See, and like these bitches got more of like the cock destroyer, right? Attitude. They're not. They're, like these are the bitches going out there to get that D. They're not. Oh, I'm just so cute, and I'm like a cute, like sexy librarian. I'm just looking at a book. No, these bitches are out there. These, if, like I said, if they don't get that cat call, they're fucking pissed, right? These are your type A, like just entitled whore.
Got to the point where we're just ready to be like, okay, well, I guess that's how it's going to be. But obviously, we don't want it to be like that.
How far do you think we need to go? Where would you say the UK's at?
It's like we're almost to the point where we're like, okay, fine, I guess it's okay, but like secretly we're not. Oh wow, a woman not saying what she really thinks. Wow, they're so typical. Okay, now let's see if she can think of something creative. So this is our supremacist flounderer who's gonna try to think of something. Shout out to those girl engineers. It's real hard. It's real hard to build bridges.
In terms of gender equality.
I mean, I think we have to be careful with equality and equal opportunity because we're not the same. There will be different needs, and sometimes, like, women will need a bit more, and sometimes men will need a bit more. So.
So here it is. She knows she needs to explicate both halves of it for her egalitarian theory, right? But we already saw like how desperate she was to try to link anything in the feminist half of the theory to reality and to issues impacting women. How much do you want to guess she's going to offer any kind of an issue or example related to the men's half? Or do you think she just added it in there because she knew that it was the other half of the theory that she technically has to say that she believes in? It's a rhetorical question. It's obviously the latter, but...
How far are we? I'd say 3/4 of the way there, but yeah.
So she just said sometimes men will need more help, sometimes women will need more help. But how far are we? Oh, 3/4 of the way. Well, what the fuck does that even mean? That doesn't even make any goddamn sense. You just said that there's like multiple things that you're adding and changing. And it's like, oh, but you can just quantify it down. If we really add it all up, it's like, oh, we're really a quarter of the way there, you said? Like, what does she even imagine? Even if she thought we were 75% of the way, what the fuck is the missing quarter? I have so many questions.
Yeah. Equal opportunity, not equality.
No, it seems to be going backwards, really, doesn't it? We've always had
we lived in
freedom.
the best time of the years ago. Not the same now.
In UK, it's better than Romania or Spain because the difference between like salaries, I would say, is not as huge as you have it in Romania or Spain just because you are a woman. So I think UK still needs.
So she thinks there's a bigger pay gap in Romania or Spain. I haven't looked into that in particular, but I think it's safe to bet that that's a bunch of retarded nonsense. And if you look into the actual reason why, then we're going to learn that basically, the suffering and the sacrifices and the labor of men and boys are just invisible to her.
Needs to work a bit on it, but not as much as the rest of Europe.
I think construction traditionally is still like that, but it is changing. I'm seeing more and more women coming into it. You meet more and more sort of site managers or women on the tools. That is starting to change, and that's fantastic.
Site managers or on the tools, did she say? I'm not in construction, and I'm not British, so I'm not sure exactly what she means. But my suspicion is that what she just listed are roles that are kind of like support roles, not related to actually doing like the physical heavy construction. And I would even wonder, like, if we don't even see a lot of women like operating bobcats and shit, like stuff that in theory you shouldn't need strength for, right? Like you're just in a little like vehicle moving shit around, but it's like a little race car or whatever. It's like a little truck, so it's like too masculine or something. I don't fucking know. right? Like, I don't. If you're in like an office position, how much does it even matter what industry, right? Like, like maybe you know a little bit about the particular trade or niche, but I feel like that's so particular to the one company that it hardly even translates into an industry. Maybe I'm just ignorant. I don't know. I don't know what she does. HR probably.
Fantastic. Because women have got an awful lot to offer. And most men see that, but you get the ones that don't, and that sort of culture can be there.
So a concession that most men are already not sexist and already value her contribution. But if she can suss out even one soggy knee bastard in the whole mass of 50% of the fucking humans, bitch better have her day.
And also, I don't think it's sort of how can I put it? Women don't necessarily grow up thinking that's an area they want to go into.
Gender equality is a difficult thing to define in many respects. As lots of trades, for example, you don't find women in because they're just not suitable for that trade. You don't find.
I don't think he's about to mention it, but he just said there's fields that you don't see women in, and then he accidentally added because they don't have those traits, right? Yeah, he accidentally said one sentence too far, and now he has to justify the sexes are different, and that's why we're going to have some difference in certain trades. But his original point was that the disparity is right. It's so funny how you can tell like they haven't thought about any of this shit. So they're saying the lines that they know they're supposed to say, but then they're trying to just talk about what they think, and everybody is like, well, the sexes are different, and then they feel like it's comfortable to say that without even realizing that they just nuked the entire framework from orbit. It's kind of beautiful. It's kind of amazing.
Find many women bricklayers, for example. So in terms of equality, you have to define that properly, before you can actually say women are being disenfranchised.
So yeah, it's funny, right? He's like, well, we have to define equality, but we have to make sure it's appropriate and sensitive to the gender differences. Like in theory, there's a way to make that position make sense, right? But it's really, really funny because he almost could have added, and then there's positions that are mostly held by women because men lack the trait in general that makes women suited to that, and vice versa, right? He almost created, the gender binary traditional construction to justify the disparities where we can all fucking dust our hands off and go home, right? But he never applied it to the other half of things. So the whole idea that there are industries populated. I don't like to use the term dominated because it's like they're just populating it. You got to prove that they're actually dominating it to justify that. Female populated industries where men are excluded in the same reciprocal way that we would say women are excluded from these male populated industries, which is that you're not really excluded. It's just sex and gender are things, and society is a thing. And like these aren't necessarily forced upon people. They're not necessarily coercive. They're just trends and just ways that people tend to be. It's kind of impossible to determine, right, what the ideal would be without any influence, because certainly it wouldn't be a perfect 50-50 split in all industries.
Areas, if it's equal pay for an equal job, then yes. But there will be areas where, you simply don't. Most prisons have got men in them, for example. That kind of stuff. You need to define what you mean by.
So that's an interesting thing too, right? Yes, we want equality, like equal opportunity, but men are just a bunch of fucking idiots, and that's why they're all in prison. Like, what a vile, misandric, ignorant fucking thing to say. Like that viewpoint really should strike people as just viscerally just odious, as a very like uncompassionate and just inhumane thing to ever fucking say or think. Like what's there to even say about that? I mean, it's right there mixed right into this of all these like cookie cutter coffee shop feminist views, right? Oh, all those men in prison just deserve it. It's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. he believes in all of the power of social forces to discourage a woman from a career in construction HR. Those are very real and very serious, and it's important to have a day for that. But any of the factors that drive men towards crime, towards drug abuse, towards all these problems, and then, you know, they get thrown up in jail as if it's going to help, or in prison as if that's the kind of help they need, as if that's addressing the root of the problem. And I get there's one thing to say for, you know, obviously it's very utopian, right, to say that we're never going to have to lock anyone up. But you got to keep your eye on that ideal, right? We want people to get better. We want people to not reoffend, right? If we have a way to identify and understand these issues, to prevent people from finding themselves under those circumstances early, I mean, everybody wants that, and that shouldn't be contested. And this attitude of like, oh, well, men are just a bunch of fucking retards, and that's why they're all in prison. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, fuck you. Wow. And I get it. He's, you know, he hasn't thought seriously about it. I don't give a fuck about this guy. But my point is, like, there needs to be a little bit of that pushback, I think, in daily life when people say shit like this. Like, hey, I actually find that pretty fucking offensive. You know? Either because I'm male, or I know at least one male. I've met at least one male. And I find it offensive that you would just blanket statement. You don't give a fuck about people who are incarcerated. Like, come on.
Equal rights for women. I think that's something that needs definition.
Equal rights
so
for
many
women.
different cultures here now.
Only
we
women.
didn't have. So we're respecting their ways and views. It's not just our ways anymore.
If you go into the country, a place like Suffolk, it's a different way of living.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's not so multicultural in
Not
Suffolk.
multicultural.
There's not so many
people,
jobs
but
there, is it? It's more
and you can
farming.
drive.
See, this is also funny too, because this like old boomer couple, like, the only issue they fucking care about is all the immigration, right? They don't want to fucking talk about feminism or gendered issues, right? She's talking about how she's not safe anymore because, you know, the implication is she's afraid of getting stabbed by a Muslim. Like, just duh, right? And it's like, you know, it's mostly women who voted for those policies and then made women less safe. And here she is bitching about it, right? It's just like the affirmative action. You know, it's a one move, infinite combo checkmate. That's just going to be a constant. The wheels are just going to spin, kick up more and more dirt. In our chat, let's see, performing for his wife. Yeah, man, that couple, it's pretty, just the way she glaring at him is so uncomfortable. This couple looks like it's a much healthier dynamic, right? It looks like he's, it doesn't feel performative with these two. They're at least both able to comfortably engage with whoever the fuck they're talking to together. Whereas with the other woman always staring at him, it does feel like she's very much looking to him to speak for her, and also very much looking for him to give a very satisfactorily pro-female answer that blows, you know, a healthy amount of smoke up her ass. Let's see. He has a serious case of the one good man. And that's the thing, honestly. Usually with one good man, right, we'd attribute it to like male feminism, in particular when they're denigrating like male rapists. And, well, actually, no, sorry, I misworded that. In particular, when they're taking crimes of a small, tiny segment of a single % of males and then trying to extrapolate it into something that's broader for all men. And their only vehicle for doing that these days is toxic masculinity as a term, right? But like specifically, like that is the dynamic where often that's where that triggers for me, right? Where it's like they're talking about rape culture and talking about these problems as if it's like something that just the average man could do, but then also that somehow men aren't doing enough to discourage it. Now, it's an interesting thing to point out, though, that, yeah, if you're applying it to other issues where you say, oh, well, that man is dealing with divorce just because he wasn't a very good husband, and those men are incarcerated because they weren't very good citizens, right? You know, that kid's in special ed because he wasn't a very good student. That's why we gave him all the ADHD meds, right? Yeah, I guess all of that kind of does feed back into one good man syndrome. And really, it's closely related to how Allison had depicted things where she said there's the apexual male, right? I guess one good man is like when in service of being the apexual male, the tippy top. It's specifically insofar as you're doing like sabotage, right? It's the unhealthy competition. It's not that they're just striving to be better and better and better to improve society. It's that then they're also realizing, oh, I'm going to get more out of my effort if actually I just invest in sabotaging the competition a little. Oh, I got to let you back in, Jay Willie? Okay. I'm going to start the video, let you back in, and next time I pause it, we'll have thoughts.
About every 10 seconds stopping for traffic lights. You've got to keep looking up for the cameras. It drives me absolutely nuts.
And what do you think about sort of general men's attitudes towards women's equalities, women's rights in the UK? Do you think men are becoming more switched on to it?
I think it's I mean, that's not an easy question to answer. It depends on the guy. You get all various opinions ranging from rolling of the eyes to I've had even some of my male friends, because they perceive me to be more successful than them in a job, they therefore think that, why are you complaining? Because women are more equal, like you have a better job than me, and it's not really about that. And then you have lots of men that...
Like... So yeah, like what is she bitching about? Who is she advocating for, right? Like, so her life is fine, she's really successful, things are going good for her. Well, bitch, why the fuck are you a feminist, right? Why not find something to advocate for that's maybe a little bit less fucking solipsistic, right? Like if they're asking you, like, well, wait a minute, we're kind of having trouble seeing this big patriarchy oppression thing, and aren't you kind of living examples of how it's like not fucking true? Why is it so fucking hard to just say, yeah, you know what? Maybe this is not the big civil rights issue of our time. Maybe, just maybe, we're going to talk about something important. It's something that is not already like ubiquitously accepted and practically mandated from the top down for all of us to fucking believe already.
But like it's gender-based issues, like because there's so many rights that men don't have in basically in every country that they should have. Like, yeah. I think there's like only 2 countries in the world where I would say it's from a legal perspective preferable to be a man or a woman. Every other country is either better to be a woman or it's depending on the circumstances.
All right, what are the 2?
Saudi Arabia and Mauritius, but I'm not so sure about Saudi Arabia.
I was gonna say Saudi Arabia. I feel like
again, I guess because then I can still leave.
I think I'd rather be a woman in Saudi Arabia than a man.
Yeah, like being a woman in Saudi Arabia has all to do with like your family.
Well, and also it's fucking hot there, and who's going to be in the shade more?
Yeah, but they have to wear.
Oh, do you have to wear burqa?
Not everywhere in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, you don't have to be a Muslim. Oh, but the Muslims probably make you pay their gay little tax, right?
Yeah. But also, no, that's actually only a male tax. You didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So your examples are,
yeah.
I don't think we have any. I don't think we have any yet. Yeah, I guess if you find a country where literally no woman exists, like if there's like 13 people in Greenland and they're all men, then technically it's better to be a man in Greenland than a woman.
But the Vatican is
unless you are the one woman, then it's not. But yeah, I guess
if you want a country where it's basically only men, it's the Vatican.
My point is I have to make the thought experiment impossible in order to find a way out of it. I don't know which country you'd rather be a man in.
I mean, like, I would say that, like, if you go to Saudi Arabia, like, if, like, a woman basically, like, in most of Saudi Arabia, she needs to have, like, a male guardian. And, like, that can be your son.
No, she gets to have a fucking free bodyguard and escort to drive her around everywhere. It's a fucking privilege.
No, that's true. But, like, I'm not sure if they're required to have it to actually get anywhere. Or if they're, like, are just, like, allowed one. Like, I don't know if they're,
I'm
like...
sure that if you didn't, there'd be no fucking... Anyway, I have no fucking clue, actually.
Because I remember a guy, he actually was his mother's guardian when they were outside and when he was, like, 9 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I could brush up on the different rules, I guess, but I don't know how interested I am.
Yeah, I'm actually also not
worth looking into it. I guess it's been a minute since I tried looking into it, but it's kind of just bad news all the way down, and I feel like I dislike Islam enough already. so.
You have a point,
but like I don't know. I think it's such a range. There's not one catch-all answer.
I think that it's varied. You've got the odd people that are still back in, like, you know, they're not forward thinking. Yeah. But I would say the majority like are changing the way they like speak to women, speak about women.
I feel like it's still coming back though a little bit. Like I've seen a lot recently, like especially like TikTok and things. It's opened a lot of men's minds, but it's also been a place where they can be exposed to people and things that are more radical and anti-feminist, if you will. And so I saw a statistic that's been a rise in men's attitude against feminism, which is kind of worrying as well. But I think we just
wonder why that's the case.
See, but here's what's funny. They didn't give any example of things changing in a way that's actually bad for women, right? Their example is, now that there's the internet, and I love how to them it's TikTok, right? To them, they think that anti-feminism is spreading like through TikTok primarily, which is like, I don't know, is it? I never even thought, like, is there a TikTok anti-feminist community? I'm just
I actually was considering joining TikTok, but I'm struggling to pick a name.
Hey, YouTube sucks. Do you know any TikTokers in the anti-feminism sphere? Since YouTube sucks so much, can you help me? Point me in a direction. I'm curious. I think maybe that's the next frontier. I'm gonna go to fucking TikTok.
Okay, I also want to go to TikTok, but I'm struggling with the name. What'd you say?
I said I want to make a cult. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but like I also want to make TikTok, but I actually don't know which name to pick yet, so I don't. Yeah, I need to pick that first.
Oh, I got a fucking awesome name that I'm taking. Resident Dissident.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Now I can't say any name.
I think that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. I was trying to take that on Instagram, but it wouldn't let me log in. So I don't know if it's actually taken. Someone might steal it. I might get sniped, but that's fine as long as someone has it. All right, let's see what else. But yeah, they're like, okay, so they saw a poll that men's attitudes against feminism was worse. Did it include anything about women's attitudes towards feminism? If not, that's called an orphan statistic, right?
Oh, is the name for that?
These retarded bitches know anything about that. You know, they're just commenting on complex social issues without basic knowledge of statistics. And it's like, I'm not going to say that I'm like a statistician or like an expert or like a master of it, but I have a handle on the most basic things at the very least, right? Like I can follow an Aiden Paladin video without getting too lost, you know? I mean, which is, I guess, above average, which is concerning.
I think they can't distinguish between being a feminist and like equality. Like they just see it as anti-men when it's not. It's being equal.
I mean, personally, as my generation, I don't think there's really a taboo whatsoever at all. Like, I like to think that my view is similar to other people's view in my generation, that I don't really second think if there's a female in a high position or anything like that. I think it's kind of just standard practice, I think.
I'm actually way more equality oriented than he is.
He's just a nice guy. He's a nice liberal guy with his liberal friends, and I can tell that he's probably like a little bit insulated, right? Like he probably doesn't really have many friends that have radically different views at all, which I've come to appreciate that most people are like that. Like it's actually unusual to like to seek out people who have like different views or to like engage with like totally different spheres of things. Like I've just found that it's a unique hobby, I guess I have. Not unique, but an unusual one. Perhaps in hindsight, that's a little bit obvious, but I mean, when that's who you are, it's a little bit less obvious, right? So I don't know. Like to me, it's kind of like this guy just he can't imagine what someone who doesn't think like him would think. Is the impression I get. Like he can't. Yeah, like the only way that he can think of an anti-feminist is if like he's imagining like a terrorist or a violent person, like, right? He's not imagining just like a normal person that just has a point of departure in their viewpoint, you know? Like, I mean, because to him that's so alien. It's like well, all of his friends are you know, cookie cutter liberal progressives. So like the kind of person who you can be friends with, the kind of person who's friendly and sociable and in society and has a job and blah blah blah, is that person to him, right? Like it makes sense that would kind of be the path you go down.
But I would like to say that I'm actually way more equality oriented than he is, because I'm actually like,
Well, we both
way
are.
more knowledgeable.
Of course, yeah, both of us are, obviously, but
Yeah, it's like that's like he's not really like getting to where he say he want to go, because in order to get there, you need to like look deeper. You can't just look at the surface. Like if you want to study marine biology, you can't just look at the surface of the water.
all right. Well, let's
That
see
should
what
be
else he has to say. I mean,
that
I feel
should be
like he kind of
okay.
just like to
That
me,
should
he's
be
like the
okay.
least offensive, right, of all of them, because it's like he's just trying to be a good guy, and I haven't really heard him say anything terribly like nasty towards men, right?
That's positive that our generation is thinking that, because future careers and future generations will also.
Oh wait, sorry, I missed the implication. He's implying that all the men that are older than him are a bunch of sexist bigots. I almost missed it. I was.
He's almost good, but he's like, now fuck, he means a dumbass.
Not really had that to do around it, so that's going to be quite positive for years to come, hopefully, yeah. And that's why it's so important as well, so yeah.
But I think all nationalities want to live with their own. My daughter used to live abroad, and they always mix with, like-minded people. Even though they mixed with, she was in Japan, they couldn't mix that well with Japanese because they don't speak a lot of English. But it's difficult.
We're not racist because our son's married to a Bangladeshi girl. She's a lovely girl.
So much.
Yeah.
What do you think that she would say about your comments on multiculturalism?
I think she thinks the same. I think people who immigrated here years ago wanted it because it was British. They liked our way of life. And I think too many people coming in just upsets everybody. It's not enough doctors, infrastructure, everything.
Not enough prisons either.
Not enough prisons either. I love it. Like just.
I have to say,
we have not enough prisons. I wonder how could we solve this issue if we don't have enough of something? Do you think maybe we could use less of it? Let's see. How embarrassing are my recommends here? We got VTuber, Synthetic Man Chudcast. He hates me because he hates the gays. He's fun to watch though. 10 utter trash horror movies you loved anyway. That's very me. I was watching Turkey Tom for a while. I'm kind of over it though, because like people have pointed out, it's real milquetoast coverage of stuff that's not supposed to be covered that way.
I'm sorry.
There was some drama with Destiny and Asmongold.
Wait, I used to have to say one thing about that. It's actually kind of insane. Like whenever it comes to,
I'm almost done.
Oh, sorry.
I've been watching a lot of fucking Harmful Opinions. Like, did you ever follow Harmful Opinions?
Yes,
no, you
I
have been a
did.
baby. Oh, you did. Did you know he came back? He's been back.
I know, but I know that for a long time because he sent a video about him that I watched. It was super funny.
Yeah,
when he basically called something ultra omega autism. But wait, before we do anything, I would like to say I think it's quite insane.
Sorry, this is just
there's like people still think it's like appropriate to like talk to Destiny as though he's like a regular person. Like somebody tried to shoot a political candidate and an innocent man died and Destiny was cheering it on after it happened. Like I can't understand why anybody is not going to tell him that guy to just fuck off and never talk to him again because he's a fucking evil person. Is my microphone working?
I'm sorry, I got distracted. You're talking about addressing Destiny, and he's not normal. Wait, was this specifically related to the Asmongold thing, or was this something else? Destiny?
No. When
really
somebody tried to shoot Donald Trump and another innocent bystander got shot, Destiny was like.
Which time? I love that. If you say when someone tried to shoot Donald, which time?
Well, if you endorse someone trying to shoot a political candidate and an innocent bystander gets shot instead.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, like, why would you like have any?
By that. Okay, yeah. Well, was he saying he wasn't saying it was straight up justified?
Yeah, he was saying that. Absolutely.
Was he really?
Yeah, well, he was. You can go and sell it online.
I don't
he was
know.
like defending it.
Destiny's too much of a wiener. He wouldn't have just stated it that way.
I have proof. I can show proof.
Now, okay, maybe this will be my project for tomorrow. Is I'll do a Destiny dive to catch up on all the Destiny news because I didn't get caught up on the Asmongold thing yet. Even though like I watched a video about it, but it was just like water. I was just like.
Okay, I have it here.
I don't know. It didn't impact me at all. It was just something that happened in the background and I forgot about it. But now I kind of am curious.
I'm gonna post it in the chat because it's going.
YouTube Sucks said yes at one point. Was that to my request specifically to show me where to go on TikTok? Because I have no idea where, and I'm afraid. But then again, like I've been rotting my brain with this shit. Can you see the stream even?
Yes, I can, but like, it doesn't really.
I can pause her. But this is great because since she's covering Michael Jackson, she had some.
Okay, I have the video here.
Little robot girl. She made me so happy this year. She's like a joy. We finally made the perfect VTuber. They removed the human element. All you had to do is make it AI, and it's perfect. Any Neuro fans in the chat?
Oh, I actually can't.
I see. You're talking about your mic. That is so disappointing. YouTube Sucks. Well, maybe if you find anything, let me know. It is going to be an incredible voyage into TikTok. Maybe that'll be the theme.
I did post the proof in the form of a video in the chat, but let's not do that today. But that's all the proof. But I would like to say one thing about an earlier thing about dress codes.
What else is there to say? I'm curious.
Okay, yeah, here's the thing, right? It is that like they all talk about, oh, the female dress code is so that, it's this and that, and blah blah blah, and then I'm like, okay, listen about this thing, right? They complain that like, oh, they require it to be cooling, and like that's bad for women because they are not required to wear suits, so they will get cold. And I'm like, okay, listen. But basically, here's the thing, right? When it comes to cooling, air conditioning, you have it high in the room, right? And men are taller than women, right? And men are way more likely to be bald than women, right? Which means that like, that means it's gonna be a lot of more cold men and cold women if you think about it. Because if the suits need to be so warm, that's actually kind of bad for the men in that situation, actually. Why can't they just not have a dress code that says the men should wear a suit? Because there's actually less. That's actually more of a like detriment to everybody than the female dress code.
I mean, I guess the argument would be that if you had absolutely no dress code, the most competitive men would wear suits.
No, that's true, but like then women can.
And then it would still be the same problem.
Yeah, but then the woman can also wear that. That's not a big issue, but you get my problem is whenever they say, oh, having these dress codes and this air conditioning is bad for women, I'm like, yeah, but I explain how it's bad for men too. It's not just like it's bad for women because like nobody's saying that. I mean, I guess having a mandate that only women wear high heels is kind of bad for women, but like it's very easy to fix. It's just to not have that. But like,
yeah, it's like you walk into the office wearing like you just drape yourselves in some fucking shears and you're business casual, and it's like bitch, it's beachwear otherwise. You're wearing beachwear and then you just draped a bunch of fucking fancy shawls.
Yeah, you can wear pantsuits.
Just Roman, what a cool style! And it's like she literally could have just like gotten out of bed in her undies, grabbed the drapes, just ripped them off, drape it around her like a fucking toga, and then just wear it around with confidence, like an Italian fashion designer pooped it out, and then she'll bitch about being cold. And it's like, bitch, you could have bought a 3-piece suit for ladies. Like,
yeah, but like my point is just like the dress.
About a man suit and just worn it. No one would have asked any questions.
Yeah, but my point is the dress code isn't really like just bad for women. If it's bad for men too.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So you can just have more flexible dress codes, and then you don't need to have everything cold down all the time if you don't have warm clothes.
I think this goes into stepping within the feminist framework of bitching about clothes.
Yes, you have a point there, and I think that's true. But
that's funny. I got to hoist you with your own petard.
Yes, you got good that you did it because now you've learned to do it whenever somebody talks about fucking.
It really is. It's a team effort. Look at that. We're holding each other accountable.
Yeah, because like I get so sick because like if you look at the purpose position, I said like when talking about men's rights to keep our kids after divorce and the rights to become parents if we want to, regardless of sexual orientation and marital status, and also like those rights are way more important than the right to be able to roll a dog a womb without any consequences. Even though you should have the right to if women have it.
Good point. I'm gonna think about this and think of if I have some ways to maybe, like, if there's like a catchy term to kind of tidy it all up. And there are. We've touched on them. It's probably something we've even said. But
It
yeah,
is
we're at 3 hours, so this is a good healthy stream. No dead air. We've been talking about stuff. Like,
Yeah, like what I'm saying is that like it's because that is an example of when people talk about women's issues, we are reacting to it and making it about men, even though that issue when it comes to men is actually way more severe. But they don't look at it from the men's position. Look at it from the position of women. Because if only legal parental surrender was fixed, that means if a man who wanted to have kids and needed IVF because he's like disabled or whatever, or because he's in a gay relationship, or because he's single, then he doesn't get the right to make a kid, but the guy who just wanted to sleep around get the right to not be responsible. I'm like, how is that like more important? It's really like
no, and that makes sense. I don't disagree there. Counter argument though is the world where LPS is accepted first, that might be a stepping stone. That might kind of put it out there.
I don't think it will be, because of course
not
it should be.
necessarily, but
Because I'm saying that when it comes to parental rights, if a man can just relinquish all the rights to his kids and not have any responsibility, then a guy will be goaded into doing that because he can't afford to go to jail for not paying child support, but he actually wants to be with his kid. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, and fuck, if LPS is unrealistic, then the question of how we get there is a pretty big one.
Yeah, no, but
we can leave it on that ominous note.
No, wait, but I think
we're trying to wrap things up here. All right, so
yeah, but I said it completely. Yeah, I don't think you understand. Like, if a man, right, is divorced and he doesn't have the right to see his kids, right, and if that doesn't get addressed, but he still have legal parental surrender, so he can just give up all the responsibility and all the rights, and then he doesn't get to jail for not paying child support, but then he doesn't get any rights with his kids either. So then you have not really made anything better if you just let him the right to leave his kids. But
LPS is only meant as like a reciprocal right to abortion rights specifically,
right?
So you're asking it to do more than it's meant to do. And yeah, like when you make the point that, well, it's not doing enough, it's like, that is a good point, and it's good not to forget that, right? But also you're kind of, you're holding it to a pretty ridiculous standard, like.
right, but no, I'm not, because like that, I'm saying that it is like not supposed to do more than that, and that's why all the things are way more important, because we need to look.
But it doesn't preclude doing more later.
Right, but like it doesn't make sense why it should be a like order. And if that's because
it doesn't make sense why we're in the fucking status quo.
No,
right?
Exactly, but
never gonna make sense.
But that is a status quo issue, because you only look. It's only reactionary when you talk about women wanting to not have kids because after having sex. Like, we should talk about the other more important men's issues as well. We shouldn't just look at men's issues from the lens of women's issue, as I said before.
Yeah, no, and that point of it, I think, is a good takeaway. I think that it makes sense.
Right. So whenever
if we're concerned about the feminists taking over the framework, well, to what degree are we still doing that if we're using these examples that are pretty conventional, like anti-feminist talking points, which I think a lot of them are meant not to be serious policies, but just to highlight hypocrisies. But
right, which is
not enough, and it is probably getting them more than they've earned.
Because then we're just focusing on what they want to focus on,
right? Exactly.
And not what we need to focus on. And we need to focus on the rights for us to be able to become dads, and for dads to keep their kids that they already have. Those are things that are very, very more important than the rights to just have sex without consequences.
Yeah, and I guess that's something I'll think more of, is like what's the best way to figure out when what hat is appropriate, or if there's only one, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here, as they say.
Right.
as I think, yeah. I don't know.
Because like in a lot of jurisdictions, like if a guy is like have IVF, if you're like disabled, right, or you have like surrogacy, or like have like those procedures are like outright banned, right? But if a guy really don't want to, so therefore having kids for these men is like very difficult, and they have literally emigrate to do it, right? While if a guy have the question but he doesn't want to have kids, well, the vasectomy is not illegal, so that guy, he can still avoid having kids and having sex, but the guy who wants kids cannot get to a point where he's having kids, right? Because those procedures are banned in his jurisdiction, right? So therefore, because when it comes to legal parental surrender, that just covers something that is sort of already covered, not completely, but it kind of is. But when they come to other things, many of the times they're not covered like at all, which makes them way more precedent.
Yeah, no, and I get what you're saying. I think that you're downplaying just a little bit, though, that it's really not that realistic to just hold as a standard that people aren't going to have accidents. Like, even if you just theoretically say, oh, like vasectomies could theoretically solve it or whatever, and those who don't, basically people who are irresponsible and make a bad decision and end up with that decision, it's kind of like fuck them. But it's like that is actually quite a significant people. Like you're saying, oh, it's just men who want to.
But I think that the men
women, really, it's kind of like, well, you know what? Like they that is still a right, and that is still in the purview. And like, if that seems frivolous, I mean, maybe that just goes towards the strength of the comparison to the women's issue, and that's the real, value of the comparison. But so yeah, I'm on the same page. I do agree. Sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. Like we just agree that we should like focus on like the men's issues that are actually like not like being provided for, because that issue, like, to avoid having kids, that is kind of being provided for.
Men's issues with no
having kids, it's like not being provided for. Unlike if a guy needs to go through hoops to have kids, that's like not provided for at all. And yet that is like, objectively speaking, a more pressing issue that affects men, while the other is not.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, I'd prefer to have all the most important issues to be the ones addressed first, right?
Yeah, because we should embrace.
If we knew how, we wouldn't be here. But I guess maybe this is part of a step. Who knows?
Yeah, because now at least, like, we need to focus on like what's affecting men first and foremost, and not letting women talk about what they think that they want, and then just make that about men, because then it's not going to, really be in the position where it's actually supposed to focus on men. It's just going to be, because then it's just focusing on women and then segueing to men rather than just
it's keeping the feminist framework, and that's like part of the problem.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that, and we did establish like why, because many women are different. So, like,
you've explained it a lot.
Yeah,
please. Of course, it's dead.
Well, this is the perfect day to explain it. Sorry, because
it's
too many
we haven't streamed in so long, so it's there's a lot to talk about. But yeah, I was thinking of reviving some kind of a podcast. I started to plan an idea for structured segments, but then I couldn't quite think of catchy names for all the segments, and then I got distracted. But now with this event, completed, now I have a little bit more room to stretch my legs and
perfect.
I don't want to promise I'll do anything with the channel, because every time I do, I end up just ignoring the channel for another couple of years. So no promises, but I'm feeling like my motivations are leaning back into hopping on streams, doing stuff like this, and maybe even editing a proper video, because that was fun to do. My videos aren't like super well polished or anything, and a lot of them like rendered really shittily, and that's why there's like random parts of my videos where it's just still that's not how I edited them. Like that's how they rendered, and I was like, well, that's just the limit of the computer, and that's I'm not gonna not upload it after putting all that work into it if it's not perfect. So
but my editing software broke, so that's why
they make them for me. Oh, my cat is Elder, come here.
Oh, I love that video too. But like I would like to say this. I mean, it's too often whenever issues becomes about men that we still allow like women just set the framework rather than to focusing on men directly. And yeah, I think that is kind of like really bad, and we need to do something about that.
Yeah.
Even anti-feminism is basically just focusing on like the wrong problem, like on like the wrong thing. Like,
I mean, I guess the way I see it is the problem is so bad.
Feminists become a problem.
No, things are so bad that like almost any change in any direction is an improvement. So I have a very low standard for like what might be a useful strategy.
Yeah, like I have a lot of strategy, like but I don't want to go. We don't have time to go over it now. But like, yeah, I like to go at it from intersectional men's issues because I have so much wiggle room there. But that's such a long conversation. We don't have time to get into that now.
We'll be in
But I'm gonna make a video about that, and you're gonna love it.
All right, you DM me later, and then let's trade some thoughts and see about exchanging some links. And then next time we do a stream, yeah, we'll have a little structure more so. But I'm really happy with this stream. I think that we had a nice. It's good to have a nice vanilla men's issues, shitting on feminists, you know, talking about some ideas. And I think we really actually there were some ideas here that are things I haven't quite thought of. So I definitely have some food for thought. As you can tell, that the kitties are getting crazy. They need so much attention. Elder, do you want to say hello? Do you want to say?
Cute.
He's quite talkative. He can tell that other people are around, so now he's being shy. What's up, buddy? His Western name is the Haslin Rascal. His brother's Western name is the Handsome Ransom.
Okay, that is a good name.
Hey, Elder, what does an ambulance say? Yeah, that's right. Ambulances go meow. That's right. Good boy. He's so impressive.
Yes, he is indeed.
Which cat is that? So this one is Elder. His name is Elder because when the kittens were born on my bed about almost 3 years ago, this one came out first because he's one of the only dark cats in the litter. He's the only tabby boy, and he has a fancy spiral pattern. You can kind of see it. He has like a swirly pattern in his tabby coat, which I think is called apple strudel. I tried to Google it, but I couldn't find any confirmation. But there's a name for tabbies that have that fun Uzumaki crazy swirl. So he's a fancy boy with mittens, and he knows it. And he's named Elder because he's firstborn of the litter, and he totally he's always known that he was born first. Like he puts his paw on the other kittens' heads to move them away to eat the food. He used to do that. Now it's him and his brother. They're pretty evenly matched. And then his brother is Captain because he has a little cap on his head, like he's a little captain. Captain Crybaby, Captain Cuddles, the Handsome Ransom. Anyway, the cats get a lot of nicknames. All right, Elder. Any last words? No, I think we covered it. I think in 3 hours we covered it. All right. Well, hey, I'm really happy we had some people around here. Actually, we have like 5 viewers is actually a lot more than I usually get. So this is a wild fucking success. Oh fuck! I forgot the whole fucking point of the stream. I was shilling TCMC. So that's all I'm gonna say is my YouTube channel. I don't monetize it. I'm not making money off of it. Not that I could if I wanted to. Right? It's not there for that purpose. I'm not soliciting donations for like anything toward myself. But if, you're within the manosphere, you're an anti-feminist, you're red-pilled, you're in our kind of tribe here, our overall the manosphere, and, you're sick of fucking feminist nonsense, you're sick of, seeing men and boys issues being ignored, and you want to maybe donate to people who are directly helping men and boys. Twin Cities Men's Center's really small organization, real low to the ground. Every single fucking dollar they do notice and appreciate. It's a tiny volunteer-run nonprofit organization. It's got like a 50-year history, being very pluralistic. So they're not gonna turn away people if they're feminist, but at the same time, they don't turn away an anti-feminist, and we get to work together. And it is focused on support groups for men, anger management for men, and like events and raising awareness. And it just in our community here. But I mean, if you search for a men's center basically in the country, it's us. Like, people drive like hours just to go to the Twin Cities Men's Center because there's nothing like it anywhere near where they live, and like I said, this organization operates on very, very little money. So if you go to tcmc.org, throw them $5. If you throw them $5 from some weird fucking country too, they'll notice. They'll be like, what the hell? Holy shit, this is so fucking cool. Right? So I just wanted to throw that out there that, there's a lot of like, if you're going to donate to something, you want to make sure it's not going to get co-opted. You want to make sure it's like to an organization that'll notice it, that it will have the kind of impact that you want it to have. And I'd say that TCMC is absolutely 100% like the best choice for that. Of anything I'm aware of, I mean, NCFM's great. AVFM, I don't know, is AVFM still doing their thing? I mean, I trust Paul Elam can do good with the money. Honey Badger Radio, obviously, I think they're definitely worth supporting. They're kind of the only ones holding the line and doing what they do as well. But specifically for in real life, on the ground, like helping men who really need help, Twin Cities Men's Center, throw them some shekels, much appreciated. And otherwise, I'll see you guys around. And again, my Discord is still open. It's kind of dead, but if anything happens there, I will notice. And if there's maybe anything kind of fun or interesting going on, we could see about kicking up a conversation and putting together a stream talking about it, videos talking about it, whatever. So yeah, that pretty well encapsulates everything I have to say. You got anything else?
Well, basically, like, you remember if we know what our next stream that we planned is going to be about?
Oh my god, that was so long ago, but vaguely, yeah. It had to do with race. And
Yes, it did, in the funniest way ever.
Let's discuss it later, because we shouldn't spoil anything. I remember it being funny. I'm going to need at least...
It is
like
funny, but it's not racist.
to come back.
It's actually not
coming
racist at
back.
all. It's
All
like
right,
not
guys, thanks
racist
so much
at
for
all.
dropping by. Keep it easy. Happy International Men's Day, and keep on keeping. I just realized that I clicked like leave to leave the stream, but I didn't click end the stream. That's really funny and awkward. Okay, now I'm ending the stream.